What is up, listeners? Welcome
What?
to
That is not
Predator
John
versus
Wick.
Movies. I know it is not Mr. Vic. I am Alex.
I am Peter.
I'm Aidan. Who are you?
Yeah, who are you? Are you trying to be
trying to
Bill
be accent-
Skarsgård?
yeah.
No, I am Killer from Berlin, and this is a podcast where we discuss and review the latest movie releases. Ha 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 ha. He laughs a lot. We'll start off with you guys are so confused.
What are you talking about?
Are you?
It's
Are
the
you trying to be
German
the?
guy.
Are you trying to be the club owner? Like
Yeah.
the guy dealing cards?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should I pivot?
Yeah,
Should I
not
do
a
something?
not a very popular
Be
character. I think.
be Bill Skarsgård. Do a French accent.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about doing that. We will start off with a bonjour, Monsieur Vic. We will start off with a non-spoiler review before diving into a deep discussion of the film, and then we will ask the most important question: would this movie be better if the alien from Predator was in it?
That was actually
this-
really good. Oh my god.
Merci. This semaine we will be reviewing John Wick 4. Before we get into it, we have some very important news. There's been some beef, some behind the scenes beef between Zachary Levi, aka Shazam, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
AKA the anti-hero that was restructuring the hierarchy of the DC universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, oh my god, it's The Rock has just been like blocking the Shazam family from doing anything. They wanted to have some of the characters from Black Adam, Hawkman, and another one. I don't know which. It was Hawkman and one of the other ones. They wanted to have them in Shazam 2 as a post-credit scene, recruiting him into the JSA, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson prevented them from doing it.
Wait, I thought it happened anyways though, because like it was Viola Davis recruiting them to the JSA.
Right, but those aren't Black Adam characters. So they couldn't
Uh,
stop them from using like other characters who they have access to. Spoilers for
okay.
Shazam if you care, but
Yeah, no one's seen it.
no.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it would require us to watch Shazam 2 to like really have an insight into this.
But it is very funny that they've been like seriously beefing. So we'll never get Black Adam versus Shazam, which makes no sense because
Dude,
Black Adam is a
You
Shazam
think
villain.
The Rock is coming back? I think he's not coming back.
No, I'm saying we'll never get it. You're not listening to what I'm saying. I said we're not going to get Black Adam versus Shazam, which is weird because Black Adam is a Shazam villain. But we will get The Rock versus Zachary Levi. And Zachary Levi also did like an Instagram live where he was just like really freaking out. He was like, "Guys, I tried to do it for you. I'm a fan too. I was thwarted." And he said
Yeah.
thwarted a bunch. It was really
And then he also like did a tonal shift where he was like he switched to be like, yeah, in life, like that's the best we can do or whatever. Like, it's like what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, so that's our news. Obviously, there should be a hard reboot for the DC franchise. We'll see if we get that. Can you hear my dog barking?
Yes.
Sure can. What's up, listeners? Alex is gone.
Yo, time to take over. It's a revolution. We're booting
Do the
Alex
intro.
from the pod. Oh,
The
he's back.
intro- Do
He's
the
back.
intro again, but with a different voice.
Yeah.
Is anyone I'll probably cut some of this stuff just because this is
Yeah.
boring.
No, you should keep all this in.
Yes,
This is really important.
exactly. This is great content right here. You know, our listeners come here for this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
They come to just like chill. Like we're that podcast you put on at the end of the day, you put your feet up on the table, you're reclining back, you know what I mean? And you
Yeah.
just want the chill vibes.
And you're wondering if this movie will be better or worse with with Predator from
Yeah.
the Alien.
You come home after a long
Wait,
shift
with
and
the
the one thing on your mind is would the alien from Predator make this movie better?
Hey guys, Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. So so we're gonna head over to the trailer park.
Vroom, vroom.
There it is. And there was one trailer this week we find is worth talking about, and it is Tommy Wiseau, the guy who made the cult classic The Room, is back.
Yeah,
I think just as directing. I don't think he's in the movie, or
yeah.
he's not in the trailer at least.
I think he's writer director auteur.
Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously, yeah. And he's back with a movie called Big Shark.
Yeah.
Um, I don't I don't know if there's like some synergy going on there, like with Cocaine Bear, like just animals attacking things. There's
Yeah.
also Cocaine Shark, so
Yeah.
there's a direct line there. But anyways, what did you guys think of that?
I'm honestly like I'm not that interested in what is being shown. Like I think he should stick with like bizarre and accidentally surreal like interpersonal dramas. I feel like going shark is actually not the way to go.
It's one of those things, and actually I have a good example of this later. It's like when you try to make a cult classic, you always fail because
Yeah.
it's the ones that are earnest and bad, those are the ones people love. But if you're like trying to be self-referential and being like, "Hey guys, isn't this goofy?" It never works because people see right through that.
Yeah.
So wasn't that a fun movie to talk about?
No, honestly though, I'm
Worth bringing up.
blown away by how good the CGI looks. Like the shark looks so real. Like
Yeah.
I thought I was in a 3D movie when I was
So did
watching
I.
it.
I thought I was in
the
the
shark
ocean.
was like, coming at you.
Yeah, I thought there was a real shark in my phone. I was like,
Yeah.
how did the shark
I was like,
get in
ah,
my
how
phone?"
did you do that? Get on my phone, shark. I stopped understanding how phones worked for a second.
Shark in my phone. Anyways, thank goodness this is over quickly. Aidan, I think we watched a movie this week.
We sure did. Okay. Movie info. Yep, we watched John Wick 4, as you guys might have known. It's directed by Chad Stahelski. that's
Yeah, good start. Good start.
that's how
Aidan,
you
yeah.
say that. I guarantee you that's how you say that.
But you hesitated.
Okay, but that's because the whatever. Anyway, written by Shay Hatton, Michael Finch, starring Keanu Reeves, Donnie Yen, Bill Skarsgård, Lawrence Fishburne, Hiroyuki Sanada, Shamir Anderson, Lance Riddick, Rina Sawayama, Scott Atkins, and Ian McShane. The DP is Dan Lawston. The runtime is 2 hours and 49 minutes, and the budget is 100 million American dollars.
Well done. Yeah, so thanks for telling us that. I had some comments from last week that apparently I was mispronouncing names, so I have since abdicated my role of
I'm not saying I want to do this every week. I'm just saying whoever does, just if you're not sure about a name, look it up. That's all I'm saying.
Sure. Some real shade on the podcast today.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
We play a game, guys. It's called Predacritic. It's we use a website on the internet called Metacritic, where critics' reviews of movies are tabulated and averaged out of 100. If it's 60 or above, it's green. If it's 80 or above, it's must see. If it's in the like 60 to 45 range, it's yellow, and if it's below that, it's red. We are going to guess where John Wick 4 lands in that ranking. So
sure
I'm going to spin the wheel. Guys, this is so
Spinning the
exciting.
wheel.
Spinning the wheel. I wonder if I could share my screen next time.
Whoa.
And it looks like it's going to Peter. Peter is going first.
Dude.
Okay.
What do you think the score of John Wick 4 is?
I'm gonna say.
It rhymed.
I don't know why, but critics seem to really like this movie. 80.
Oh.
80.
Yeah.
Interesting. I am so close. Okay, it looks like it's me. So 80 seems high, but I do think this was a better John Wick. I'm gonna go with 75. I'll go with 75.
Okay. I am kind of in the Peter camp here too. I actually do think it's going to be 80s too. However, the problem becomes that if I guess higher than Peter and it winds up being lower than Peter, and I'm in a sticky spot, and I don't want to
Come
be
again.
there. I think I am going to, because I'm not that confident, I'm going to guess 78.
You motherfucker. You got it exactly on the nose. I had it open already. Yeah. Which means
Dude, he gambled. He
which
gave
means
the
I
system.
lose this
Holy.
time because it's much higher than I expected. What do you guys think about that? 78. Does that feel right?
Feels right to me. We'll get into it, though.
We'll
We'll
get
get
into
into it.
Yeah.
We will get into it. And the first person who gets to go into it because he has won the game is one Aidan.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Let's go. Okay, so John Wick. I have not seen the first three in a long time, but I remember just liking them. I remember thinking, this is really good action. This is better than most of the action we're seeing in Hollywood movies. Yeah, and to me, like, this one was no different. I was also very struck very immediately by how good and interesting the lighting is, and like really, really interesting shot composition as well in certain parts. I think like this movie knows exactly what it is. It knows like exactly what its tone is. It's like very silly, but in like a sincere way, and that's fun. Um, yeah, I honestly like, these are the movies that you always like whenever there's like a big Hollywood action movie that like people are like, oh, this one's like really sick compared to most of them. Like people are like that with Top Gun Maverick. I like these movies more than Top Gun Maverick. That's just me. Like I get a lot more out of these. I enjoy the action more. I don't know. Like they're just more engaging for me. I like. I've always liked how the world building is like pretty subtle. Like they don't hold your hand with how things are. Even though, like, especially like I had forgotten like the lore, and I was still like, they give you enough that you can piece together enough information to understand what's happening, even if you forget everything. Yeah, some really great action, really cool action, and great lighting set pieces. Um, Maybe a little long. There are definitely parts where I was like, okay, let's get on, fellas. But other than that, yeah, I did really enjoy this movie actually, and I wouldn't even say that I'm like the biggest John Wick fan. So I would say, yeah, I give this 4 stars. I agree with that. I'd recommend this to anyone. This was a great theater experience. People were like doing the oh ah wah like during hits and stuff, and yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Peter, as the runner-up for the Predacritic, what did you think?
Yeah, so we'll have a segment later on about our John Wick rankings, and honestly, even though this is the highest rated John Wick film, it is not my favorite John Wick film. I think what like the progression of the John Wick franchise is so interesting. Like the first movie is very much self-contained, and then second movie where you're sort of dragged into the world of hitman assassination, the concept of the high table getting introduced, and then the third movie sort of expanded on that, like going even above and beyond, going into the desert, seeing like the elder was supposedly like a leader of the high table, etc. But then I was expecting this movie to build off a lot on the high table concept that we've been exploring the past two films, which we didn't really do in this one. Like high table, a lot of the rules and stuff are still very much a mystery, and it seems like every movie introduces a new rule by the high table that the movie can use as a gimmick that I don't really enjoy, to be honest. And honestly, the other thing I hate is they started introducing these armored guards in the they introduced them in the third one, and then they started using them heavily in this one. And I think when everyone's armored up, it's a lot like John Wick can really showcase his skills as well as if he's just fighting regular mobs. You know what I mean? Because like they take so much of a beating, and it seems so unrealistic for him to fight off like 10, 15 armor guards at the same time without getting majorly injured, which is like a major drawback for me in this movie. But like Aidan said, some amazing locations, great shots, really creative action sequences that I always find John Wick franchise tend to excel at, the movie did exactly that. I give it a 3.5 out of 5, and I think there are some unnecessary sequences in there, but like Aidan said, it is still a great experience to watch in the theater. So I would recommend this to everyone.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would say that this is probably like This is the first John Wick I'm seeing in theaters. I did watch all of them. Um, I think last year, but then I rewatched them all within more or less a 24-hour period. So they're all very, very fresh in my brain. And I would say that this is easily like my favorite of them. Um, I think I think it's a huge step up in every single way from the past couple films, especially after three, which I found was kind of a letdown. Um, I think they kind of not forego the world building, but there's a little bit less of like the rules and like the this all the stuff about the high table and the coins where you have to like the markers and stuff like that. I feel like there's less of that in this movie, which I appreciated, and there's more of a focus on characters and relationships, which I really really appreciated. Um, we've got some of the best new side characters we've seen in the entire franchise, which I think was a really good choice for this one. I think Chad has really stepped up his direction. I think from the previous ones, although like not to say that he's done shoddy work in the past. I think this one just is the best since like he's just continually improving. Um, I think every action scene in this movie is like pretty well perfect. I would say that for it's the most consistently good group of action sequences. I've found that like in the previous entries that there's moments where I'm like, oh, this is really really good, and then moments where I'm like, okay, whatever, can we move on? And I'd say that this movie, every single fight scene, I was fully captivated, and I think the choreography was at an all-time high, and like really creative locations as well. And yeah, I'd say like yeah, I had a great time. I was just thinking like of like some movies this one reminded me of, but I think if I say them, that's kind of a spoiler, so I'll save that. Um, but yeah, so I had a great time watching this in theaters. Um, yeah, I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think it doesn't like I don't know. It's about as good as like a John Wick movie is gonna get. Like I don't know that they could do better than this, and because then you're kind of like leaving what makes the franchise itself. It is kind of like inherently a goofy franchise with like kind of like silly mechanics, but yeah, really liked it, and I would recommend people go see this. I think it's a good time at the theaters. So I lost this Predacritic game, so that means Aiden, it's time for spoiler.
Spoilers.
There it
Wee
is.
woo, wee woo.
Okay, so I have to do the synopsis. I have not done this in quite some time. It's been a while since it's been my turn. So I guess we'll see how I do when it's my turn. Okay, I've got my timer in front of me. Oh wait, I'll do it a better way. Give me a second. Okay, I'm ready. Okay, John Wick 4. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so we start like what kind of seems like at the end of the last movie. John Wick has been hiding out in the Bowery with Lawrence Fishburne, and he's been training. He goes and kills the elder, the guy from the third movie, in like Egypt, or no, it was in Morocco. Once he's done that, oh no, the hotel is in trouble again, and it gets like bombed this time. It gets like murdered by Bill Skarsgård. He also kills Lance Reddick, rest in peace. Not in real life, but he did die in real life as well. And then, fuck. There's John goes to the Osaka Continental in Japan, and he's hiding out there. And the Marquis, who is Bill Skarsgård, sends his people there to basically whoever John Wick like associates with gets in trouble. So they like try to murder the Osaka Continental. Marquis hires Donnie Yen, who is blind, to like kill John Wick. I think Donnie Yen, yeah, that's his name, has like a kid, and so that's why he does it. And he's kind of like John Wick's like alter. So he kills the guy who's the concierge or whatever, like the manager of the Osaka Continental. Oh fuck. And then He goes to Berlin. They realize that if they do a duel, they can stop this once and for all. So they go to Berlin, and John Wick becomes part of the Ruska Roma again by killing Scott Adkins in a fat suit. And like because he killed his uncle, and then as part of the Ruska Roma, he challenges Bill Skarsgård to a duel. He then has to live until the sunrise so he can do the duel. But like Bill Skarsgård sends like a bunch of people after him. They do the duel. Donnie Yen fatally shoots John, but John kills Bill Skarsgård because he is hubris. John dies.
Nice.
I did it. I think I hit most of the beats. What did I miss?
Mr. Nobody.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
you did
man,
miss
that's a
Nobody.
whole
Yeah, that was a
character
that was a
you
whole
missed.
character you missed.
Oh
Yeah.
fuck!
Yeah.
It was that moment when you start doing the synopsis and your life flashes before your eyes. You're like, fuck, I don't remember this movie at all. Yeah, there's a character named Mr. Nobody, and he's a tracker, and he's tracking John Wick, and he's hoping to wait out the bounty until it gets high enough. So he like kills people who are gonna kill John, kind of like what Willem Dafoe was doing in the first one, like protecting John. But for this reason is to make the most money, and he's doing that pretty well until the end, and then he's a good guy.
Yep.
He also has a little puppy.
Yeah,
Well,
he's a puppy
a dog. It's not a puppy.
Can you imagine if he had a puppy? That would be really silly.
And John chooses to shoot the guy who's going to kill the dog instead of shooting Nobody at a certain pivotal scene.
Yes.
Yep, that's a fact.
Yeah.
So, with that out of the way, we can now get into our spoiler discussion. And I think this is the fastest we've ever gotten there. It's
That is
20
actually
minutes.
crazy.
20 minutes plus like riffs, which we will probably cut out. So I'm going to ask my classic question. What was your favorite part? I sounded like a robot.
Okay.
What is your favorite part?
All right, Pete, dude.
I have a lot.
Dude?
I'll
Pick
list
one.
Yeah, I'll list two here. One is short, the other one's a lot longer. So
Sure.
I'll start with the short one. Really love the scene where they met to parlay at the. So the setting is already sick. It's
Paris?
like you have the Eiffel Tower as a backdrop, and then you're in this little plaza where the table's laid out. Everyone's dressed very nicely, and then the way they decide the duels like rules is by flipping cards. And I think these little moments, like Alex, I disagree with you there because like you think the previous movie involved a lot of gimmicks like the marks, etc. I really appreciate these lower moments because I think in order to immerse yourself with the world, you sort of need to learn bits and bits more about the world as the movie goes on, as the franchise goes on. So I'm actually very disappointed that there are not more moments like these in this movie. That's like one of the reasons I really enjoy this scene, which is like amazing world building through like subtle, it's literally just a negotiation of the duel. So they do it by sort of like the category, so like where the duel will take place, and then they flip a card. So the person that has a higher number wins and picks location.
It's like
and,
war.
Sorry?
The card
It
game.
is like the
It's
card game war.
Okay. I don't know about that card game, but that's cool.
That's crazy.
So and like you sort of don't realize the significance of like the location, the time, etc. until much later when it's like revealed that John wants to do it now because the sooner he can do it, the less interference Marquise, which Bill Skarsgård, can sort of put on him. And like sort of having that slowly revealed to you as well, and like sort of as the intensity builds, like, oh, he's not even gonna get to the dueling spot. Like that's Marquis' plan. He's not even gonna get there, so he's gonna get disqualified automatically. Was really cool. So that's one of my faves, and I think you guys want to say something. So
I kind of do.
Yeah, I'll save my next one after you guys comment.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, this scene is emblematic of like one of the things I love about this franchise, which is the way it world builds, where it's like a lesser movie and like a movie that is less sure of itself would like go out of its way. It would have a scene where someone like explains the process by which they do it instead of just showing the process. What I love about this movie is that like they just start doing it and they start flipping cards, and
I
through
know.
visuals you understand what they're doing. It's using inserts effectively to tell you what is happening. And
Agreed.
that's like,
Yeah.
this series does that in general, where they don't hold your hand with their world building. They tell you what you need to know, and they respect you enough to just figure out what's happening. And so I agree. I actually really like this scene as well, and I think it's one of the things I like about the franchise in general.
Yeah, I think it was also a really nice scene. I love like the aesthetics of it. Really, like the mirrored table was a really neat detail, and the cards aren't like plastic cards; they're like pieces
Metal.
of glass
Yeah.
or like
Oh
maybe
yeah.
Yeah.
it was metal. I don't know. Also like Clancy Brown. That's his name, right? The guy who's, let me look it up.
The Harbinger,
Yeah, the Harbinger.
like the old guy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Clancy Brown. Isn't he Mr. Krabs?
Oh,
Yeah.
is he?
Yeah,
Really?
that's funny. Yeah, he's a famous guy. I don't know how you don't know him.
That's crazy.
Anyways, I thought he was super sick, and he has a big part in that scene as the Harbinger, kind of like the high tables representative. Yeah, I think you guys mostly mentioned what I like about the scene. It's pretty cool. Aiden, what would you say is your favorite part?
Honestly, I do think my favorite part is the action sequence at the Arc de Triomphe, when they're the whole car thing. I think like it takes us back to like the first film a little bit, where like there was a lot of car action. Like I had genuinely, I think this is interspersed throughout the whole series, but I'd forgotten that like a big part of this franchise is just John getting hit by cars, and,
Like so much,
and like
There's so
dodging
many
cars,
guys.
which I think is, I like that. I really like the idea that like, I think like one of the dumbest criticisms of John Wick movies is, well, he wouldn't survive that. It's like, yeah, that's like, that's
No,
the
that's stupid.
movie. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I don't know, but yeah, I really love how, and I love how this series isn't afraid to let John get hit. Like that's what makes the action so good,
Yeah.
is that like John gets tired, John gets hit really hard. You can tell that it's like stunt coordinators. That's on like full display in this scene, I think. I fucking love the extended part of this sequence where he's just doing donuts in a car around the cars. And he's shooting everyone. And you think it's not gonna last that long, but it happens for like 5 minutes where he's just spinning around. Yeah, I know, but it's like a long time where he's just spinning around the cars and shooting everyone. I love how they utilize the oncoming traffic. There's a lot going on, and it does a good job of like immediately directing your attention, so you know which cars are good guys, which are bad guys, which are pedestrians.
Yeah.
And so like, and that's a very difficult thing to do. Like that's not easy to just make it that clear, and that's essential. Yeah, this was like a really fun, like very necessary part of the movie. Like I needed a good part of this. Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
honestly, I think it's just very creative as well. Like I don't think I've seen that in an action film before, where it's like the pedestrian traffic is actually used to the protagonist's advantage. You know, oftentimes it's just to create a barrier between the protagonist and the antagonist, or like the people who are chasing him. So like I'm thinking back to like Fast and Furious or like Mission Impossible, but like in this movie, like the pedestrian traffic is like an actual danger to both the protagonist and the antagonist, which I thought was really cool. It's almost like a video game where it's like an environmental hazard being used to like the protagonist's advantage or something.
It's like Frogger.
What is that?
It is like
or
Frogger.
Crossy Road.
Crossy Road. Yeah.
John Wick Crossy Road. Yeah.
And also like it's just so like in my review I said it was like this movie has some really sick, very creative action scenes and some really irresponsible drivers. Like these drivers just did not give a fuck. They're just like, yeah, you know, I'm just gonna keep driving.
The French famously do not give a fuck.
I was gonna say I have been there, and it was like, yeah, that's I buy it. Having been there.
So many goons get hit by cars. That was like 5 to 7 minutes of goons getting hit with cars.
Yep.
It was. I mean, that's all you need, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the Mission Impossible sequence at the Arc de Triomphe. I know it. I also remember liking it.
They do that.
I just don't remember enough of what happens to compare it. But
I don't remember that at all. Yeah. I will list a favorite scene of mine. I think the one I'll go with is the card scene with Killa, the guy whose accent I was doing
Yeah.
unsuccessfully.
Mhm.
Kingpin for Peter.
Yeah.
I oh man, it was such a great moment where all of our characters kind of meet up, or not
Yeah.
all of them, but like the main players. So Donnie
Yeah.
Yen is there, and the Tracker is there, and it's kind of like it's the first moment where I think all three of them are together, and they kind of like talk a bit,
They're chatting. Yeah.
and they're not like trying to kill each other, and the vibes. And I mean, I think I don't know who this Tony Adkins guy is. That's the guy's name, right? The
Scott Adkins, I think.
Or Scott, yeah, sorry. I don't know what is up with me and making up
I
people's
get the
names. I
sense
do
that he is
apologize.
like a fighter or something.
I think so, yeah.
Like,
Scott Adkins, his character, I loved it so much. Killa, just like the mannerisms and how much of a dick he is. And they're just like every card hand is played like, oh, he's got a good card hand, but his is better, but his is
yeah.
better, and
Yeah.
then it's shitty the whole time. And like I think it leads into a really good action scene. Um, but actually, just like the card scene itself, I think was a really high point of the movie for me.
Yeah.
Aiden doesn't feel the same. He's yawning.
Sorry, no. Yeah, no, and I mean, like, well, we were gonna talk about this later a little bit too, but like the scene that becomes like when they're outside and the hatchet people come by and it's in the rain and stuff. I was like, oh man, like this is beautiful. Like it's so fun. Like there were so many.
Mhm.
I'm trying to remember every little moment. I was like audibly reacting to so many different things in this scene. Um, yeah, no, this is a great scene. Great sequence.
I know Peter had one more favorite moment. Did you still want to do that as a favorite moment?
I was just gonna say. So I was gonna say the Arc de Triomphe, but I would pick someone else. The scene where I forgot. I think it's right before the staircase sequence. We sort of got this sort of like top down view of the action as John
Oh, yeah.
traversed this building from room
Oh,
to
yeah.
room with a shotgun.
Yeah,
That was a really cool sequence.
that's pretty dope.
And like it gets hard to follow sometimes, but like just the way it's shot, it's just really cool. I think
That was-
it's the scene right before nobody's dog was about to get shot.
Yeah.
Right, there was
Yeah.
part of that sequence. Yeah.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorite action scenes of the whole franchise. It was really creative to see like a different perspective because we're always at eye level
Mhm.
with the fight scenes, and yeah, it was also like for a while it was a continuous take. There's not really many of those in the Wick franchise, and that's not something I particularly need, but
Yeah.
um, I do find those interesting, and like the amount of work it takes to make those is always very impressive.
To make a good one, yeah, because I think
Yeah.
it's like movies do it as like a gimmick, and it's like okay,
Oh, yeah.
but if you just did different shots and cut it, it would have been better. But yeah, I think like this is a pretty well crafted one.
Yeah. Why don't we start going into our points then?
Yeah.
We can start at the very beginning, as Julie Andrews likes to say. That's a little Sound of Music reference. And we can start with the opening. We start off with a punch, and boy, it's the punch heard round the world.
Yeah.
I saw that. I saw that on Twitter before I saw the movie, and it was like this was a jump scare. So like when I saw the first frame, I was like, "Oh, I know what this is," because I've seen the punch, so I
Yeah,
know what
yeah,
this is
yeah.
going to be. But were you guys startled by that?
I was not, but I thought that opening was sick. I was I was like, this is awesome. Like I'm very excited for what we're about to get into.
And then very quickly we get into a Lawrence of Arabia homage with
Yeah.
there's this exact same match cut where Lawrence Fishburne has a match and he blows it out, and we cut to the sun
Yeah.
in Morocco.
Oh yeah.
I was like, what the
That's
fuck?
cool.
Why are we doing
It's
Lawrence?
awesome.
Like I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But it was so I think I audibly I don't know what I said, but I made like a noise. I'm like, what? What are we doing? That was like oh, this movie's gonna be like another level. That was
Yeah.
crazy. What did you guys think about this opening sequence?
Dude, I just thought uh, we the first time we were in the desert, John was exhausted. He was like, trying to find the elder, and then this time he's like, I don't give a fuck. Rides a horse and
It
just
was
starts
very easy
shooting.
this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
was
love this
quite
sequence.
fun,
I loved
yeah.
it. I loved that they were like intercutting like shots of New York and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
like I was thinking like, oh, okay, so we're gonna get like big action sequences, and we're gonna get a sequence in New York, and that's why they're doing this. It's like setting up the idea of the city, and then we didn't. But I was just like, so I don't know what the point of that was being, but I actually did like it. Like I thought it was, maybe it's the same thing where it's just establishing like it is like the punch that's being heard all across. You know what I mean? Like that
Oh,
that
yeah,
sort of
yeah.
idea. But yeah, no, I thought very beautiful. I also thought it was funny how the first like half hour of this movie takes place during the same sunset, which I thought was pretty funny.
Oh,
Where it's
that's
it's
cool.
like
Yeah.
it's like I remember we were like far into it, and I was like, how long is the sunset for here? But I didn't really care. I was like, I thought it was really great.
Yeah, good opening. Why don't we talk about some of the things we've touched on?
Yeah.
The directing, lighting, and shot composition. So one thing that I was thinking
yeah.
was, it seems that like Chad went to film school since the last one, because suddenly we're getting like
Whoa.
references to, famous movies from the 60s, which are like very film schooly. Like that match cut, like if
Yeah.
you've gone to film school, they have to show it, and usually in first year. And also I think I do think that the directing is a huge step up from the previous movies. Like he went from like a pretty solid director to like doing really interesting things this time. Um, so I don't know what happened, but Chad
Like
is like,
what? I'm curious as to what you mean because I haven't seen the first three John Wicks in a while, but in my memory, those are very well directed movies.
yeah. I mean, I think there's just something different about this one. Like it feels almost like he's got more of a grasp on shot choice, and I think the lighting is
No,
maybe like
I
maybe
think they've always been great, to be honest. Like,
I know I'm not saying that the previous ones are bad. I'm saying that the other ones are like good direction, and I think I like these ones even more. I think that I think especially like the lighting has kind of like there's something different about it. I don't know if it's like if it's darker or yeah, I don't know. I really like the direction in this one, and I do think that there's something different. I don't know what
yeah, great. I
specifically,
think
but
they're you know how like sometimes we just capture a frame of the film and it just looks so cinematic. There are so many of these in this one.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like I think we all agree. When he just arrived at the Osaka Continental, the background is sort of like a red background, and there's like cherry blossom, like flower petals falling on the side, and he's looking down. Oh my God, that was a
And
beautiful.
then that one shot that's like kind of like a medium full shot to the side, like a profile with like the tree in the side. I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is sick.
So pretty, yeah.
But no, I agree that like I guess I don't remember the first three well enough, but I was struck immediately by how good the lighting is in these movies. Like they're so like this is a very like good movie to look at. In the scene with Killa or the Kingpin guy, like there's one shot that's like above the fan looking down and you see the shadow of the fan. I was like, whoa, that's sick. Yeah, no, I loved it. I thought the lighting was like a huge highlight of this movie for me. That just I think every single scene like looks very beautiful, and even scenes where it's not like an action set piece, or even scenes where it's less dramatic lighting, like the one where I forget his name, the guy from the hotel. He's been the first three. What's the manager of the hotel? Manager of the hotel.
Winston.
When Winston goes and visits Bill Skarsgård in his like mansion with all the paintings.
Oh yes,
I was like, that's
he's
it.
walking
Yeah.
by the paintings.
Yeah,
that was really
walking
cool.
by the paintings. It's like and little things like they were using like really wide lenses in like certain like in the right shots that made this room feel like huge. Like obviously it's a big room, but like just like a lot of really great choices all across the board.
Yeah. Another great thing from this movie is The fight choreo. I mean, that's kind of like the whole
Yes.
point of these films. Is Chad started out as a stunt double for Keanu Reeves in the Matrix, I think, and so that's kind of like where he comes from. And so naturally, these movies are chock full of action and just quite like amazing stunt work.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned this in my review of it, but I'd say that like this is the most consistent and solid selection of action scenes in the John Wick franchise. I think every single one is fantastic. So why don't we pick out some of the highlights? I guess. Um, Peter, are you
Okay.
gonna follow what I was
There's
just saying, or are you going
yeah,
off on
like
your own way?
I wanna have a quick comment on that. So one thing I actually didn't enjoy about this movie is so like they sort of introduced like I touched on it during my non-spoiler review. I don't like how many armor guards they put in this movie. So armor guards are the people that have like a huge
Armor.
chest plate that are basically bulletproof, helmet that's basically bulletproof. So the only vulnerability that they have is sort of like the gap, which is their neck. And they sort of introduced it in three, where in three there was a literally a scene where John's like, Winston, I need more firepower. Like my pistol's not doing it, and he went to the armory and picked up a shotgun, and then he was actually blasting them. So which makes sense. But in this one, when they were at the Osaka, literally, I think like over 50 of them, like so many of these armor guards showed up, and the fact that John Wick disposed them with a pistol was just like there is like a level of believability, like even in the John Wick universe, and I think that's just a step too far. Like I would not much prefer them tone that down a little bit and see like John is very adept with a pistol. We all know that, but the fact that he's using a pistol to dispose all of these guards at the same time without getting seriously injured is just too much for me, and that took me out of the film. To be honest, that's my
Yeah,
take. Yeah.
I disagree with you on that one. I think it's good that there are enemies that John has to try different things in order to beat. Like I think that's a very important thing that like so like he can't just like shoot these guys in the head. Like he has to find a way to like get close, and we see that through the action choreo that he has to like kind of disarm them in different ways or hold them at a distance until he can get in there.
But the thing is,
Um
there are so many of these shots where you literally see many of these guards behind him as he's sort of fighting the guard in front, and there was
well
just
there are other people fighting.
no. It was literally just him and the concierge, which is the manager's daughter. It was that scene on the
Yeah.
rooftop.
Yeah.
There
No,
were
there's
no
like
other people.
yes, there are. Yes, there are.
There
There
was
are
like
other
there
people.
was like a
There are
couple
other people
archers
who
that died really quickly.
no.
That's it.
They're literally at the end of that scene. There is another guy who is there with them. I know that for a fact. I can
You
picture
think?
the shot
There's
vividly
there's
in
an
my head.
archer. There's
Yeah,
another archer up there.
yeah. And I
I
I
I
think
just thought
throughout the scene, like I don't know, like I just I don't care. Like I believe it enough that it's like yeah, he can do that.
no, like that scene was just too much for me, and I think that scene was I don't know. I'm not a huge fan personally.
Mm.
We can just agree to disagree, but I thought like the way they structured the enemies in this movie is a little bit too much, at least for the first act.
I would say that I'm with Aiden on that one in that I do think if it's 4 movies of John shooting people in the head, which is what 3 was kind of getting to a point, I think that's really boring. Where finally, like not finally, but like leveling it up a little bit, where I think otherwise it gets stale, and I think the fact that now, like Aiden said, like there's a new challenge, like there's something different about the fight. I do appreciate that. Also, like it doesn't last the whole movie. It's literally just at the Osaka. It's not these armored guards don't pervade the movie. If that were the case, I too would get probably annoyed, just being like, okay, like that's not why I'm here. So I
Mm.
think the fact that they limit that was a smart choice. Um, to your point, like I also like don't have a problem with the believability of the John Wick universe because literally everyone in New York is an assassin. So like that's kind of like that's
But I
gone
think
out the window ages
that's such a
ago.
that's such a like a plus though. You know what I mean? It's like the setting is so familiar, yet like the people inside are like very different. and they build it in a way that when you're watching the movie, you believe that this can actually take place. I think that is so cool. Um, like like honestly, like for me, it's not like the armor guard has like less weaknesses compared to the regular goons. It's the fact that they show up in numbers, and John was battling them in like groups of 3 and 5s in the 3, and he was struggling a bit with a pistol. And now this time it showed up in numbers, and he was just like, you know what, no biggie.
Uh,
So
yeah, I don't like that's something that like I personally like could not care about. It's
and honestly, but, well, there's another point I want to bring up. I don't know how many times in the movie he sort of lifts up his suit to block bullets, which
oh
is
that
sort of explained
it's
in
very
2
silly.
and 3. It's like, bulletproof technology,
Mhm.
but then they also made it very clear that the impact, I'm afraid, is quite painful, and like the fact that he's just tanking all of that is just
Peter, this has been a problem the whole franchise.
I
John Wick
know,
is a
but it's like
one-man army. This has not been. It's not a
I felt
new
like
thing.
it's like toned up a little too much in this one. In
But you
my
have to
opinion.
escalate. You have to escalate it. You have
Yeah.
to
Yeah, I feel
escalate
like-
it. You have to gradually make him more
No, I agree.
impervious to
I
different
agree.
things.
I agree.
You
I
have
agree.
to make more ridiculous things happen to him that he survives. He has to kill enemies like easier than before. Like he has to
Absolutely.
get harder enemies.
I'm 100% with you. I just think they should have done it differently. Instead of like,
Mm.
what I think John Wick is so cool, like the whole franchise, is John a lot of times doesn't fight enemies head on. He sort of like he plants around because he is like he's been in this world. He's worked as a professional assassin. He's know how to evaluate enemies' weakness and exploit them, right? But then in this movie, a lot of times he's just sort of fighting enemies head on instead of taking like a smarter approach, if you know what I mean. Which
Cool.
sort of
So you know what I
did.
liked about the Osaka Continental? Which time to move on, boys. What I liked about that action sequence, the new character, whatever her name is, the concierge with the bow and arrow.
Apparently,
pretty awesome.
she's a Japanese singer or something.
I think that makes
Yeah.
sense because I heard she has a big fan base, so it was cool for a lot of people to see her. But there were some pretty sick kills with the bow and arrow. My favorite was pretty early on where she has someone pinned to the ground and
Yeah.
holds the bow like up to the guy's face
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like direct headshot with the bow and arrow. Any parts of this kind of like sequence that you guys really enjoyed?
Well, at the hotel in general, I think I might have already mentioned like with John Wick versus Donnie Yen in like the glass room. They love their glass rooms in
They
this
love
this
glass
franchise.
rooms.
I really liked that. I liked how they used like I like how they navigate his blindness. Like they don't make it just a full on Daredevil thing where it's like
Yeah.
he's basically not blind.
Yeah,
like
he
no,
does see.
like he is blind here. And like I like that they like he has to find different ways to like deal with that. Yeah, no, I really like that sequence. I like the moment when Jean like pretends to be dead on the ground and he has to like try to
Yeah.
get to the gun and yeah. No, I really that was a great part of this sequence too.
Peter, did you like anything about this scene?
Honestly, I just really like the setting. I think like
Okay.
apparently Chad is gonna do a Ghost of Tsushima film, and like the fact that he absolutely nailed this sort of Japanese aesthetic just made me very exciting. And honestly, like don't really like the enemies they fight, but I really like the hotel manager, and I think like they've used katana several times in the John Wick franchise, and the fact
Especially
that
in
we're
3.
the fact that we're in Japan, lots of katana scenes, and like the fact that when the manager passed by the kitchen, it's like, boys, time to suit up, and then they open the fridge, it's all weapons.
Oh, yeah.
like,
Yeah.
That was a really
that's
great
awesome.
moment.
really badass.
Yeah.
I think everyone in my theater was like, "Oh yeah, they opened the fridge and there's weapons there." Yeah.
I also, while we're here, I want to give a general shout out just generally to Donnie Yen, who is just like so good. Like his movement is so crazy in this movie. Like he is so good. Like I remember I read somewhere that they had to change the choreo because he was too fast for what they were doing. Like he was moving too fast, and they're like, "Okay, this doesn't work anymore. Like we gotta switch it up." And like he just, like, and you can see that like he's just, like they usually in action movies they like cut frames and they speed up footage, and they were like, "We didn't do that with him because he was just like going that fast." It's so sick. It was so
know
fun to
else is
watch him
crazy,
do it.
though? Keanu and Donnie are both in their 50s, about to reach
Yeah.
like 60, and Keanu did 90% of his own stunts. Like
Yeah.
I did see
that's
that, yeah.
crazy.
That is insane.
I will say that like there was a couple moments where I was like, okay, Keanu's getting a bit up there in years. Like he's kind of like going slow. Like not every move is as fluid as it was 10 years ago. But Donnie Yen, like not a single comment. He was like lightning quick. While we're no, let's keep talking about the action scenes. So then the next big sequence I would say is Berlin and like the nightclub sequence, which I know Aidan really enjoyed. Do you want to kick us off with that?
There were so many times where I just got giddy like watching this sequence, like starting from in the club, like when he's using the cards as weapons initially.
Yes!
Like
Oh
that's
my
so
God,
sick
awesome.
when he cuts him with it. I love, dude, the one shot when he's fallen down to like the lower level where the waterfall is coming, and he's holding the gang boss like on a line of water so that they're like divided by the water falling down. And there's one shot that like no, well, you don't notice it until there's one shot that makes it clear that that's what it is, and it's like, whoa, like it's so cool. Yeah, there were multiple like. This was a scene I don't remember specific moments just because like there's so much of the movie that it's just yeah. But like there was so many. I remember this was a scene where I was going like, ooh, like a lot. Like every time there was like a sick kill or something. Yeah, no, this was awesome.
I liked not one of the oof moments, but there's one moment where I think he kills some of the bodyguards who've like approached him in the crowd, and then the crowd kind of like parts, and you see Scott Adkins like standing there. I was like, oh yeah, it's on. This is awesome. I'm trying to think what else is in this sequence.
Dude, also the German crowd just doesn't give a fuck of people getting killed among them.
I thought you were gonna say that, and the like during the movie, I was like thinking someone's gonna make a comment about that, and then I came up with the
really
comment
funny.
while I was watching the movie.
Yeah.
So here's my comment that I came up while watching John Wick 4 to respond to that. Peter, they are on drugs that you have not even heard of. They are so fucked out of their minds. They do not know what's happening.
Dude, but the funny part is they were running out at the end though. When John was
by
exiting,
the end. So. Like they're like dancing and John Wick is like murdering people. They don't give a fuck. They don't know what's going on. They're on like the craziest drugs.
That's also another thing about this franchise I love is that like they make the division between the normal world and the criminal underworld. Those two worlds, those two worlds are so close to each other all the time, but there's just such a clear divide between them at all times. Like yeah, I love that like this criminal shit just happens all the time, and like you could be a normal person in this universe and just be kind of oblivious to it. Like you're just at a club and like maybe you see something and you're like, oh fuck, but like that's the extent of it. Like I love it. Yeah.
Actually, quick tangent while we're there. This doesn't fit the point, but I felt like that's where they were going with Mr. Nobody, that he was a normie who had kind of like who is outside of the criminal world, and he's kind of like started picking up the pieces, and he like noticed things, and he's he's found his way into the world. He's got his notebook, and he's like written down like the Bowery King symbol, and he's doing his research and stuff like that. And I found it like his character was like just like the tiniest bit underdeveloped, and I just wanted to know like what his deal was, and I feel like we never found out because he was so interesting.
Yeah, I actually do agree with that. That was one of the things I was thinking where I remember we got to the movie and I was like, okay, wait, how did he know that much about John? Like why? Like I get that he's a tracker, but like most you'd think that other people would have tried to do this. Why is this guy special? And yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was kind of weird how he like seems to be putting on a front a little bit, like because the moment
Mhm.
Bill Skarsgård does that thing, he's like shocked. He's shocked that he gets his hand stabbed, and I was like, if you're part of this world, you wouldn't be as shocked. You wouldn't be like, what the fuck, man? Like you would
Well,
just be like, oh shit, that's something that's happening.
I
And I
think
feel like
it's like
Peter, dude.
Peter, you having a bad day today?
Okay. But yeah, and I agree though that would actually be an interesting angle if he was like a guy from the outside world that like had just like picked up the pieces. I think that would be really fun.
Peter?
Well, I think the gold coin, as soon as you walk into Osaka, is a dead giveaway. He's part of this world, and
Oh, right.
the
Yeah.
the interaction with Marquise, I think that's mostly like he's only been interacting with the Continental, which is below the table, and now
Mhm.
he's directly interacting with a high table member. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but like the last movie when John pledged fealty to the table, he had to cut off his finger, and
Mhm.
then when we see the Harbinger is also missing a finger as well.
Yeah.
So it's sort of
Oh.
like this sort of, and then in a lot of chapter 3, it's all about like, you know, you betray the table, now you pledge fealty to the table, we have to take something from you. So like John's I don't know, adopted mother or something, like her hand, she had to get like basically knives through her hands,
Mhm.
like last one. And then Lawrence Fishburne got 7 cuts because of the 7 bullets he gave John.
Mhm.
You know, so I think like it's very much like a high table thing. It's like we have to take something from you for
No,
you
I
to be back in our fold, you know.
I understand that, but if you remember, like when that happens to John, he's not like surprised that's happening. He's like, "Oh shit, my finger's coming off. That sucks."
Yeah.
But like,
He seems to know what it is.
he seems
too.
to
Like,
expect
they
that
don't-
kind of
yeah.
interaction.
Yeah.
It's just weird to me that Mr. Nobody wouldn't expect Bill Skarsgård to try to do that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dude, and actually that scene was that scene was so funny actually, because like I didn't really fully understood what Bill Skarsgård mean. It's like you have to remove the knife or remove the hand. It's like, huh? Like
I hate
is
that.
he gonna like pull his hand out this way? But then he started like slowly pulling his hand out. I was like, yo.
Yeah.
Nah, I knew what he meant, and I was like, "Oh no, he's gonna do it." It reminded me of Men. I don't know if any of you guys ended up seeing that, but
I did not see that.
there's a good save yourself. But there's a character who's got like his whole like arm is like forearm to hand is like in half. Blech, gross. But yeah, like yeah, I think that was like one of my few gripes about the movie is Mr. Nobody's a little underdeveloped, and he clearly has like a story.
Yeah.
Is one of those characters who like he's come from somewhere. He's got a very distinct like look to him,
Yeah.
like a backpacker, like a loner, and he's got this notebook.
And this
I just have so many
dog.
questions.
Yeah.
He's got this dog. Yeah, what's up with the dog? He's I think in his notebook he's like trying to save up to a certain amount of money, but there might have been a picture. Like, did he draw a picture of a house or something? But like, what
No.
house costs $50 million? You know, so. Anyways, if they continue this franchise, I'd like to see him come back.
So,
Actually, aren't they developing a Ana de Armas spin-off?
Yeah, the ballerina, but I don't think.
ballerina.
Well, he's not a ballerina, but maybe he could appear in there.
Well, I mean, it's like everyone's in this world, so
yeah,
Well, it's
we'll
not.
get into it as well, but I feel like the ending also lends itself to maybe continuing the franchise, but we will get into that later. But we can go back into the choreo conversation. So there's one kind of remaining like action sequence, and it's quite a long sequence. It's John trying to make it to the dueling grounds.
yeah.
So it's several scenes put together, but man, was that like awesome. That was
Yeah.
kind of like I don't know, maybe my favorite sequence as a whole because every scene was like great.
Yeah.
It starts off with like the first big one is no. It starts off on the streets of Paris and
Yeah.
it moves to the Arc de Triomphe, and then it moves. Is the next one the building?
The building.
I
yeah.
think
The building, yeah.
it's like just a random Parisian building with the aerial shot, and then the 200
And then the
steps.
stairs. Yeah.
So we've kind of already talked about the Arc de Triomphe. I don't know if we need to continue that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
I
just
really
a quick
like-
comment.
Sure.
Just a quick comment. they were playing Painted Black, but like the French
Yeah.
version, I guess, on the radio. I'm just so pissed they didn't fully finish the song. And like the song started
Yeah.
fading out. I'm like, come on, guys, this is like peak action music, and you won't let it play out.
Didn't they do that in Black Adam as well?
Did they play Painted Black in Black Adam?
Wait, did you guys see the movie?
I did not see Black Adam.
Oh,
I've
it's just
seen
me,
Black
okay.
Adam, but I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure it was like the first song, or no, not the first one, but like when he's breaking out of the tomb or whatever. Anyways, it's one of those like on the nose songs, but
Yeah.
um,
I will say this: the staircase is a great idea for an
the
action.
200 steps.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's 200 steps.
That was amazing.
That's a great place to do an action set piece. I love how like we track his progress and we see him go by, and I fucking love how when he falls down, it shows it in
my
its
gosh.
entirety.
Yeah,
Like
Yes.
he falls and
You're
then
like,
he
"You
keeps
can't
falling
fall."
and he keeps
Yeah.
falling and he keeps falling. Like that, like that's like such a funny moment, and like that's the kind of
Yeah.
thing that like this movie is so good at having funny moments like that. This is kind of like the point I have later, the funny goofy shit, where it's just
Mhm.
stuff like this like really sells this movie for me. If this movie was super serious, like it would be nowhere near as fun. But it's like it's moments like this where he falls down the stairs over and over and over. He lands at a landing, they kick him again, he falls down the stairs and he keeps going.
Yeah.
Like that's such a it's a great idea for a place to put an action set piece, and it's a great one. Yeah.
It was probably one of my favorite parts of this movie. Just while like talking about the funny goofy shit, it occurred to me like the John Wick franchise has always had kind of like funny moments, but I
Yeah.
feel like they do it in such a way where the tone doesn't change. It's
Yeah.
still like within the world, as opposed to, or maybe not even just that, but the brand of comedy is different from what you usually find in action comedies nowadays. Think anything David Leitch does with like the Deadpool movies or
Yeah.
Bullet Train. Like it's always very like self-referential and a joke a minute kind of thing, where I think John Wick's comedy is kind of, it's better. I
Yeah.
don't know like what they're doing differently, but it's definitely less grating. I find the
Yeah.
David Leitch stuff really annoying sometimes.
But I love how like it's also the thing of like just knowing exactly what they're making. Like they know every time they get Keanu to say, "Yeah,"
So many times.
like they know what they're doing. It's so funny though. Like there was one moment that I actually like I thought was like hilarious, and I was in this theater alone, sandwiched by two groups of people, of strangers, and there was one moment where I was like one of the only people who burst out laughing like really, really hard. And I don't remember what it was, but there was, oh man, I'll try to think of it. But yeah, I thought I love the comedy in this movie. I think it's just like it's a very sincere comedy, like you were saying. Like it's just like within like, it doesn't have to call attention to the fact that what's happening is funny. It just knows what's happening is funny, and it just sets it up in such a way that it's funny.
Yeah. Sorry, Peter. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think it's like in a sense that action doesn't impede. The comedy doesn't impede the action. Like they don't actually conflict. I think that's the other one that they do so well. Like for example, when you have like the John falling down the stairs scene, like that is funny at the moment, but then they're right back into the action because that's what makes sense for the plot and that's what's happening. And it's also when it comes to the language, like John's a badass. You expect him to say certain things, and when he says it, it's just so satisfying.
Yeah.
And that's funny. Like it's like, yeah, they can come, I'll kill them all. It's like things like that. Where it's very on brand for John Wick. And I think it's hard for other franchises to replicate that because like their main protagonist is not a badass assassin like John Wick. So.
Yeah. Only other thing I can think about for the action sequences is the I don't know what you call it, but like the shotgun where they've modified the bullets so that they explode.
The dragon's breath.
Dragon's breath. Yeah. Man, that was awesome.
Yeah, that was sick.
Just like sick. Catching everybody on fire while shooting them. I was like, well done. You've talked to yourself.
Yes. Honestly, like these are some of my favorite moments of John Wick. Like like we can't let John use like an overpowered weapon all the time. But when Johns get to have fun with something more than just a pistol, it's
Yeah.
just fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Why don't we go into a discussion about the writing?
Yeah.
We kind of touched on some of the John Wicky. I don't know where I'm going with this. Like I think kind of what you're saying about like how John always says like, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
I'm back.
I think every character has a very distinct way of speaking,
Yes.
which is always great.
Yeah.
Where like if you think about, you know, Marvel movies are kind of like the easy to pick on action like adjacent.
Yeah.
Everyone sounds kind of the same.
Yeah.
A lot of the time they're all very quippy and they don't really have distinct voices anymore. I do find that like the John Wick franchise, like they're on the verge of becoming soundboard versions of themselves, where like it's like the John Wick, yeah, yeah, and you know Lance Reddick is like Mr. Weak, and you know
Yeah.
everybody has like their catchphrases, right?
Yeah.
But it works. It works
Yeah.
for them, I think. You know.
No, I think it works so well. And I guess my point I'm writing is something I've already touched on a little bit, where it's just like it actually like it does a really good job of like showing, not telling within dialogue. Like that's a like just over explaining things. Like I'm thinking in particular the scene where, because people often hear that they think showing, not telling, and they think they take it too literally. But you can show with dialogue, like, you know what I mean. You can have dialogue that doesn't over explain itself. And the scene, one of the things I'm thinking about in particular is when the scene where nobody first talks to John Wick and he explains like what he's doing, and it's like he just says something like we've seen the insert of him scratching out the money, and John's like, are you gonna kill me? And he's like, not yet, we're in this together now. And that's all he says. And like we understand exactly what he's doing just from him saying that. And that's what I mean, where like a lesser movie would have him, it would have like a stupid interaction where he like explicitly states what he's saying. And that's my point of writing, is that there's actually like a surprising amount of subtlety in the writing here. Like there's a movie like this could get away with just having a script that is nothing, but it actually does there's a lot of attention paid into like how information is revealed in the script, and I really appreciate that.
I think there's lots to be said about the writing of this movie beyond that even. Like I think this is the first one in a while where a new character has been introduced where I was like actually rooting for them a little bit and being like, oh, I care what happens to this other character. So Donnie Yen's Kane is one of them. You know, I was like, I don't really want him to die either. And Mr. Nobody, I think, as well. Whereas, like, I don't know, I think most of the cast that are introduced in 2 and 3 are either cannon fodder, like, but usually like villains.
Yeah.
And not really, not anybody who's his equal. I know we get I'm blanking on her name, Halle Berry as Sophia, but she's in and out, like she doesn't come back.
Yeah.
So I think it was really interesting to see just like really strong, well written characters. It reminded me a lot of Puss in Boots, The Last Wish.
What?
Because like I don't know if you guys saw the movie, but
No,
there's
No.
a lot of villains in it, and so like at least in that respect, I was like, oh yeah, like it's kind of like that. And,
Yeah.
And one of the villains is like the manifestation of death, like a wolf who is death, and he's like hunting Puss in Boots. That's kind of who Mr. Nobody was for a second. He was like, yeah, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm waiting. Like I'm always there. I thought that's what they were going with. And yeah, I don't know. Oh, I'll also say some of the other movies that this made me think of. This was very clearly John Wick's No Time to Die. It was the same, very, very similar, like, this is the end of the road kind of.
Is that the most recent Daniel Craig Bond?
Yeah.
I have not seen that one actually.
Last one.
Okay. Then I won't get into that more, but
I know what happens in it, but
yeah, there's definitely time to die is what we learned. And in that respect, for sure, they're the same. But I don't know. I think there's similarities between them.
I gotta say though, I think Marquise is a really bad villain. I don't really like Marquise as a villain. I think
I liked him actually.
to be honest, I think the Russian dude in the first one and the Antonio in the second one are better villains than Marquis.
One of the things I actually really liked about the Marquis was that you kind of expect that he's going to be the final boss, and that like John's gonna have to wind up fighting him, and he's going to be this great fighter. I actually love how, again, I think in a really like subtle way, like it's kind of implied that he can't really do shit.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
he's
absolutely.
actually pretty incompetent, and it's like he probably couldn't take anyone on, and he probably like he's kind of like failed upwards into the position he has. Like you get that feeling from him, but that he has this overwhelming confidence. And I think that's a really interesting place to take the villain, and that he is defeated by having that turned against him.
Yeah.
No,
And
absolutely.
so
And I think like him and Winston are like a foil. You know what I mean? Like Winston is much more calm and collected, while he seemed much more like agitated and like loud. But it's just like I felt like I don't know, like he didn't seem intimidating. You know what I mean? Like the goons he have might be intimidating, but he himself did not seem intimidating. Maybe that's the point.
Sure.
That's yeah, definitely not something I have a problem with. I think it's interesting when you have villains who themselves are not maybe like a physical challenge. It's more their resources, and that's something you see across movies all the time, including action films, where it's more their resources are the problem, and their goons and whatnot. I was gonna say, you mentioned Antonio, and I do think that he was a very strong villain in kind of like a similar respect, because I don't think he doesn't. They're kind of the same. Like he has resources, and there isn't, if I recall correctly, a final fight with him. He's a coward, and he runs away to the Continental to get to save himself. And that moment, just recalling from John Wick 2, is one of my favorites, probably throughout the franchise, where um, he's sitting at the table and he's eating the duck fat, and like I felt like such rage for this character. I know what happens, and I was like, I hate this guy so much. He's like one of those like, man, like in school, like one of those kids who's like, I'm gonna tell like teacher like that kind of energy. Like I'm actually like home safe, so actually you can't do anything right now.
Yeah, he's listing out. It's like, oh, do you know, like they're
I could stay
actually
here
like
forever.
I won't
yeah.
be eating the same meal twice. I can stay here for a very long time. And John's like, no.
Yeah, so I agree that like maybe he's not the best villain from the franchise.
Yeah.
I do think that, I don't know, I did find him more interesting maybe than the first villain from one, the Russian guy. But I found him kind of annoying by the end because he always talks in a certain way. He's like, this fucking dog, and like, you stole his fucking car, and he says it like that. I was like, that's weird. That's a weird way to say it.
No, like, well, like the Russian guy, two things, right? Like one, he's the guy that delivered the famous speech. Is like he killed like 5 men with a fucking pencil.
With the fucking pencil.
Yeah. And like I feel like there's a much like the emotional side of the villain in one is a lot richer than Marquis, because like he literally had to give away his son's location to John to save himself. Like he knows by giving that information to John, his son is going to die, and like, but it's his life or his son's, and that as a decision point for him, I thought that was really cool. But going back to Marquis though, now that I think about it, all 4 villains that we have are sort of like thinking villains, I guess, except for 3, because 3, the villain is much more like the Japanese bald dude.
Oh yeah,
who's like a fighter. Yeah. But like, first one, the old guy can't really fight. Second one, Antonio sort of ran away to Continental, and then this one, Marquis is just like, no, I don't want to get the kill. Oh my god! And then John's like, no, not getting the kill.
Also, like Bill Skarsgård is kind of like a freaky looking dude, and we know that. But
yeah.
It's one of those times where he kind of just gets to be normal. Like he's not a clown, you know.
Yeah.
But he is still like an imposing villain, and I think that was cool for him.
Sure.
Yeah.
I like how this movie tries to wrap up the franchise in that they are trying to be like, okay, you've been doing this for like you've been on a revenge drive for 3 movies. You gotta stop, bro. Because like every single movie is like consequences from the previous one. Like you killed the wrong dude, and now you got to do this, and
Yeah.
you did this thing, and well, look at what you did, and it's like, okay, where does this end for you? And I mean, John Wick has never been like a super like thematic, like we're gonna explore something kind of movie. That's not really what they're for. But I think this movie is as close as they've ever gotten. And also like kind of like I think this is the first time where they cut to a Helen flashback that I was like, oh, this is actually like a really good use of that. I always found the ones on the phone where he's watching the video on the phone kind of like goofy. And I was like, oh, this is actually kind of sad where he goes, Helen. Oh, Helen. And then
I like what I like about the end of this movie is how it played like it sets up the idea that's like he has to die. Like that's the only way this can end because now that he's back in, he could never get out again.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
but I don't
like,
think he's dead though. You know what I mean?
I don't think he's dead either.
Yeah.
I have a feeling he's coming back. But
well, we can talk about the ending while we're here. We'll kind of circle back to some other stuff, but
yeah.
I was almost sure that he wasn't dead, and then we didn't get any like reason to believe he was alive, so I'm not certain. But it did feel like I harken back to Captain America 2 with the Nick Fury gravestone. Like I was like, oh, that's what this is, right? Like the fake gravestone, so that he's finally out because there's physical evidence that he's dead.
Yeah.
I think there's room to bring him back for sure.
Yeah, and also it's the fact that like there originally was a John Wick 5 that I think is now up in the air and is not as confirmed.
I heard something about it, yeah.
But like it was, they were supposed to film 4 and 5 back to back, and then I think COVID got in the way of that or something. But yeah, like
so
that was the original plan. So I do kind of think like also like the end credits scene, like
I mean, end credits scene?
Yeah, at the very end, very end.
Fuck.
There's an end credits scene.
I didn't watch that.
But like it doesn't involve. I can just say it's the concierge from the Osaka Continental, the daughter of the guy,
and Donnie Yen.
And Donnie Yen. She's like it's implied she's about to go kill Donnie Yen.
It's quite funny.
Like, yeah, and it's but it's like I don't know. Is that supposed to be like setting up for a spin-off? That's the idea for that. Like if John Wick is dead, then that's the idea. No reaction to that.
So, no. So I'm just sorry. I was doing research.
I haven't seen the scene, so
I was doing research. So it says on the John Wick Wikipedia, the John Wikipedia, if you will. It says in May 2022, so under a year ago, that Chad stated that while Chapter 4, it's funny because it's well before the movie was released. He said Chapter 4 has some conclusion elements to the story, which of course at the time no one knows what that means. But he says that there would be a 5th installment to the franchise. So maybe I don't know if I want him to come back. I do think this was a nice ending for John, and for him to be like, yeah, I guess I'm back again. Like I think I'll get kind of like, oh geez, like how many times is this going around in circles?
I disagree. I could like I think this is the equivalent of like a show that has found its franchise so well that it could replicate it for a million seasons. Like they could make 10 John Wick movies, I think, and I would be like, this is fine. Like I think as long as like they cared about it still, it wouldn't get bland, and I would still like it.
I would definitely be worried that we're getting into like jump the shark territories. Like if you don't respect death in this franchise, then you're getting into Marvel territory where it's like, if you didn't see him die, did they die? You know? Right. And then how do if John Wick seemingly dies in this movie, the kind of like unkillability of him is like to a completely new degree, where we've known for a while that you can't kill John Wick, but then it's like, oh, when he died, he didn't die. It's like, okay, so
I think there's a way to do it.
Maybe
I think there's a way to do it and just limit that. I agree that could be a big problem, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm cool with them making more.
I feel like it's really similar to Okay, spoiler for Blade Runner 2049, but it's like
Oh yeah.
it's literally the same thing as K at the stairs. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, he seems like he's
Also on
bleeding out,
stairs.
but is he bleeding out? You know? Um,
I
and
don't think they're doing more with that
No,
character.
I
I
think
think
dude,
he's dead.
I
I think Kay's
wish,
dead.
I
He's gone.
wish, I wish to do another Blade Runner
I
follow up.
I watched that movie like it wasn't until like the third watch of that movie that I understood that he died there. Like I was like I thought he just
Wait, I
like
thought it's
was
still
sitting
ambiguous,
there.
no?
He was just tired. He's taking a nap. He's
Yeah,
taking a
like, I
nap
thought
Yeah,
it's
no,
ambiguous.
literally I was like, yeah, he like I was like, yeah, he's just sitting there. Like he just
Yeah.
like he reached the end of his emotional arc and he's just sitting there.
Mhm.
But
Fair enough. So did you watch the post credits, Peter, just now?
I'm watching it right now.
Okay. I found it funny that she pulls out like an X-Acto knife and like she thinks that's gonna
Yeah.
stop Donnie Yen. Yeah, sure. But yeah, I think she was a really cool character. So like I'd be happy to follow her instead, and kind of like maybe it's one of those where it's like we
passing
have
the
a new
torch.
character. Yeah,
Yeah.
pass the torch and kind of like here's my pitch. Okay, so you pick up from like that moment exactly. Like we start there, and it's her, and maybe she wants to kill Kane, but Kane. I don't know. Maybe Kane is the villain for the whole movie in kind of the same way he was with this. That could get stale, but I think then maybe she goes searching for John Wick. Like she hears rumors that he's not really dead, and then she
Sure.
finds him like holding out, like kind of in some spot. I don't know. Maybe he's in prison. Some cliches. There's so many
Yeah.
to play with. I think you're right. They could do something with it. I really liked. Oh, let's talk about like the actual ending, like the duel. I loved when Donnie Yen said "fuck off" to
Yeah.
Bill Skarsgård with like the force of like that punch heard around the world. That was the "fuck off" heard around the world.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about that climactic scene?
Well, I think it's
I-
very.
Oh, okay. I say at first I was like, oh, we're not gonna do like a big fight, but I actually like. No, I like it. They went through their fight scenes. They did a bunch of like
So
huge
many.
fight scenes, like back to back to back to back. I think it was actually a good way to end it. I like that they actually do just kind of outsmart the bad guy, and like, yeah, no, I like the ending.
And it's not even like they weren't intending to outsmart him either.
Yeah,
It was John kind of like giving up, and I thought that was really interesting where he just kind of like resigned.
I think it is intentional. It I don't think they go into the duel planning it, but right before they fire the last shots at each other, or John doesn't fire it, that I think the implication of that is definitely that, like I forget what the exchange is, but they say something to each other, and it's definitely that like this is what we're going to do.
I know what he says. He says, those of us who cling to life die, and those who cling to life something die, and the ones who cling to death can't die, like something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
I think that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
The way I saw it was here's two characters who want out, but one has still has the reason to be out, and the other one has lost the reason. And so I read that line as being like, John Wick is like, maybe this is the end of the road for me. Like, I'm happy to like you have a reason for living, and if I kill you, like, what is there left for me anyways? So, like, maybe you're right. Like, I think
I think
fair to have different interpretations, but
I know I like what you're saying too. I think it might honestly be a mixture of both. But yeah, no, I think you're right too.
Sorry, Peter.
Honestly, like I just thought it's a really great way to wrap up Donnie's story, because like he reluctantly got back into the fold because Marquise has power over him because they know where his daughter is, can sort of use that to as an advantage. And then like even in the Osaka Continental, like he's reluctant, like he wants to let the Japanese manager live, but then the Japanese manager is like, nope. And then like we sort of slowly see his change of heart, right? Like his like like at first when he was conversing with the Osaka manager, the manager's like, you know, back then it's not just obey the table, it's brotherhood, you know, like I would do this with John because John is a friend, John's a brother. And sort of we can sort of see Donnie sort of coming back to that. And also like see him slowly realizing that Marquise isn't isn't that great either. Well, it's not like he doesn't know already, but like when Marquise declined to duel John and instead nominate Donnie to duel John, he's just like, yo, you can't do that. But then he's like, no, I'm gonna use your daughter as sort of like the piece to pressure into it. So
yeah,
it's a great way to wrap it up, you know. And like eventually like Bill Skarsgård is like the guy in battle royales is like, you know, going for the kill on the down player, but the down player is like, oh, I have a self revive. Okay, you guys probably don't get that reference.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. So Kane.
That was very aggressive. We had some like major technical issues. We thought we were gonna have to like re-record the first hour and 25 minutes of this podcast. So thank God that we don't.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Kane. I was gonna say that it was very cool that we finally have our anti John Wick and like a character who like actually parallels him. It's in hindsight kind of weird that it's taken this long to get to a character like that. You know, you'd think that might come earlier, but I'm glad they waited at least.
But I think there's always been that sort of antagonist hitman character in like you know, first one's Willem Dafoe as a sniper. Second one it was it was the guy that he fought that was protecting Gianna.
Oh, Common,
yeah.
Common.
And then the third one is a Japanese dude with a blade.
Zero.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like this one, I like that he was like an old friend. And again, I don't remember the first ones very well, but I like that. I like the implication of like they were brothers at one point. Like,
yeah. Absolutely.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I definitely meant more like in a literal sense, like they are pretty well like the same guy. Like he also wants out.
Sure.
Like that's not something they've explored.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like they both want out, but who wants it more, or like who needs it, kind of thing was interesting.
Yeah.
Here's a question. Like I could just be wrong on this, but like why did they name the blind man Cain? Feels a little bit like
no idea.
Is that that is a biblical thing, right?
Yeah, Cain and Abel. I don't
know what the deal with them is, but they're guys.
Cain and Abel were brothers. Who
was Cain the abuser or the one being abused?
No, in Cain and Abel, it was more about jealousy, and one of them killed the other because he wasn't getting God's.
It was the firstborn son of Adam and Eve.
Yeah, I don't remember which is which.
And
so
also,
it could be that.
I'm pretty sure they hinted at like he was not blind to begin with. Like he gave his eyes to the high table or something.
Yeah,
they did say that. Yeah.
That is the implication. I was just saying that it's a poor choice of name for someone who uses a walking stick.
Oh my god!
I guess that's not. I guess it's not a
saying.
cane per se, but like I was like, he does use a cane. I was like, okay, come on, guys.
Oh really? I wasn't even thinking about that at all.
That game was amazing.
If you throw an eye in there, I'm instantly not thinking about that as well.
Fair. But I mean, as far as characters go, like pretty sick. And I mean, Donnie Yen is awesome. He's also like he's basically you did say that he isn't, but like he's basically Daredevil. And
no, but like I love Daredevil, but like they approach it in a different way where it's like Daredevil can see. Like I said, like he can see. And they don't have to choreograph fight scenes differently, but Donnie Yen has to take specific actions that are because he's blind. He has to do specific things,
and that makes the fights more interesting. You know, like when the first fight they had in the glass room, like John was literally trying to be very still, not make a sound, so Donnie Yen won't know where he is.
Yeah, and he's always like hitting things and like moving his like stick around the corner and stuff like that. And yeah,
So honestly, I thought out of all the scenes, my favorite with King was actually the one at the very beginning in the kitchen where he set up like the little
that was cool.
doorbells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he specifically picked penetrable surfaces to put these on so he can shoot through. Like there was like this giant kitchen table in the middle that's made of metal, and then he was shooting through that to sort of wall bang the other guys on the other side when the bell went off. I thought that was really sick.
Yeah. No, I thought it was dope too.
Yeah. Also, like we alluded to this earlier, but Scott Adkins' character is kind of Kingpin. This is like not really about the movie, but when we were talking about Hawkeye, if we've ever talked about Hawkeye, how like Kingpin is kind of like weird in that show. This is how like powerful and like that's what Kingpin should be. He's like a strong guy who is just like a wall of muscle, but not bulletproof, you know?
Okay, the question is Kingpin funny though? Because Scott Adkins was pretty hilarious during
Kingpin's not supposed to be funny either.
Okay.
Where should we go from here? Why don't we talk about how John Wick 4 is what I would like to call John Wick 3 2.0. I'll explain. So this is kind of like I didn't really care for 3. I think it's kind of I didn't like 1 either, but I think 3 is like a new low after 2. And I feel like this is trying to do what 3 did again and just like do a better ending. So I found some similarities. In both movies, the Continental is condemned, this time kind of more permanently than the last time. We have a representative from the high table chasing after our guys. There's all the stuff with the Ruska Roma is in both films. And then there's some things that are kind of like, sure. The Elder comes back, but they kind of like undo everything that they did with the Elder, like within the first minutes.
I didn't remember anything.
Yeah.
No, but like they undo it is the point, right? Like,
okay.
Like he did all that stuff in the movie, and then they're like, psych, undo. Not to like what's the word, like retcon it. They don't retcon it. They're still moving forward, but it's very much like the decision he had made at the time. They're like they go back on it, which is fair. A character is allowed to do that. And then the last thing, this is definitely tenuous, but there's a person who has dogs as their sidekick.
Yeah, and honestly,
that's just a staple of the franchise, though.
At this point, no, I just mean like the Tracker and Halle Berry. I was like, these are the same guy.
I thought nobody was a better dog person than Halle Berry.
Absolutely. But you know,
okay, so rank the dog people in John Wick universe.
Number 1, John Wick. Number 2,
yeah, what happened to John Wick's dog?
Yeah, but I just remember that. Doesn't he have a dog?
He has a dog.
He was at the end. He was given to the Bowery King, Lawrence Fishburne, the doggy.
Oh, okay.
I was sad about that.
Good to know he's safe.
Like I was like, when John Wick was like, I guess I'll die. I was like, okay, there's 2 people. Like it's not just if you die. Like if you die, what happens to the dog, and what happens to Winston, right? Like
what?
Like if in the duel. If John Wick, like if he resigns himself and like sure, shoot me. I was like, hey, but like you're not the only one who's dying here. Remember Winston?
Yeah.
Anyways, this was better than John Wick 3. Any thoughts on that? That was kind of
I don't remember it enough.
Silly point.
I just don't remember it enough. I remember really liking it though. I remember being like, this is cool.
I think there's highlights to it for sure.
Sure.
Peter.
Same here, honestly. Like I thought 3's final battle in the hotel was really cool. But that's about it. Like I thought like the whole shebang that they did with the ballerina and stuff like that was kind of like
yeah, I didn't care for it either.
Yeah, but like the opening was cool, like Aidan said, like you know, like he is the most wanted person and how he's handling that situation.
Again, like it's 3 is like repeating things. Or no, I guess that's not what I'm saying. Because that, although like I love that sequence,
Yeah.
they do that in
Really
2
similar
as
in
well.
2. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
like,
I'm gonna
it's-
talk about that when we rank the John Wick
Oh,
movies.
yeah. Before we get there, I guess we kind of talked about this. Staples of the franchise. Let's name some things that John Wick
Yeah.
loves to do in his movies.
Get
Number
hit by
1.
cars.
Get hit by cars. I was going for that too. He loves getting hit by cars at least 7 or 8 times
Yeah.
across 4 movies.
Loves dogs.
Dogs are nice. Oh, one that I find really annoying is sliding shit across tables. They do the same shot where someone with 2 fingers puts down something on the table super dramatically and slides.
Oh, it's
it
usually
across
the
the
coin
table.
though. It's usually the
Yeah, but
coin.
have you have you considered that that's a sick ass way to do that?
It's just like maybe the problem is watching them within 24 hours. It's like that's too much.
I warned
John
you
Wick for-
against that.
I still enjoyed 4.
Yeah.
It was okay, but yeah, when you're not waiting 2 or 3 years between movies, it's like I've seen the same shot so many times. Stop sliding shit like that.
I would be willing to bet if you did a deep dive of any director where you watched like 3 of their films in one sitting, you'd be like, "Oh, that's the
I'm
same
going
shot. That's
crazy.
the same kind of
Yeah.
shot." Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I've had that with Nolan, where I watched 2 different Nolan movies within the span of the week, and I was like, "Oh, it's like that thing." I was like, "Yeah."
It's crazy. It's like he's got a
Yeah.
directorial style or something.
Yeah.
Another thing John Wick likes to do: jacket shields. When they do
Yep.
this,
Well,
I
I
got
think
tired of that
that's
pretty quick.
particularly for this one. Like it happens so many times in 4.
That's a lot.
it's
I'd
think
forgotten about that.
the difference is that now the bad guys do it too. 'Cause
Yeah,
they do
yeah.
this as well. Oh man, it was very silly.
Another staple is finishing people off. He likes
Yeah.
tapping them.
Sorry,
in the head.
what? He likes to what?
Finish people
to
off,
finish
like
people
tapping them in
off,
the
yeah.
head. You know.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
You
Alex,
mean-
very very cool. Very
John
cool.
Wick famous for finishing people off. Not the kind you think though.
But not that kind.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Not like that.
Not like that. That's not what I mean. Not like that. John Wick likes falling downstairs.
He does.
He does a really big falling downstairs in this one, but it's a repeat of the joke. They do that in 2 with Common. When he and Common are fighting, they make each
Yeah.
other fall down the stairs.
Yeah.
I think this one was a better version of that. Maybe it's an homage.
Yeah.
Another
Another staple of the John Wick franchise is, yeah.
Yeah. That was the last thing I had written down, basically.
Yeah.
Well,
You
and
know what?
also, if we
Oh, yeah.
actually think about it, lots of like, I don't want, lots of very interesting quotes get thrown out in the John Wick verse.
There's some good quotes.
Yeah, it's like, for example, if you want peace, parabellum, which is prepare for war.
That's the name of the movie.
Yeah, in 3. That's the
If
only
you
one I
want
remember.
peace,
One Piece.
John Wick Chapter 3 Parallel.
Whoa. Man. I like the one that's Lawrence Fishburne's. Somebody please get this man a gun.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah.
want to be quotable, you know? Like
Yeah.
that's like you're clearly going for that.
Side note though, I love Lawrence Fishburne in these movies so
He's
much.
so good.
He's
Yeah.
clearly having such a good time doing this. Like even if he's not in it that much, like he just comes in and kills every scene. I love him in these movies.
Are you ready, John?
Yeah.
And, like
42
direct-
regular, isn't it?
Yeah.
directly compared to him like having like a brief stint in the Marvel universe,
Yeah.
like Bill Foster, and him just going like, "Whoa, there's some big ants around here." Whoa, man, I hate that movie.
What the fuck happened to Ghost from that movie? Sorry, that's another
Yeah.
thing.
Wait,
Yeah,
is he
she's
not in
in-
Thunderbolts?
She's gonna be in Thunderbolt, so
Okay,
that's what
okay.
they're.
Okay.
But it was funny that, well, like most of the Ant-Man cast are noticeably absent from the movie. Anyways, that's another movie that we have a whole pod on.
Yeah.
Let's okay. Before we get into some of our franchise-wide things, Aiden, did you want to talk about the runtime of this one?
Yeah, I just really quickly, because I mean, like the thing is, I read that like they had like a 3 hour 40 cut at one point, and that they cut it down to this. I read that they had shorter cuts that they showed people, and that like this was the best one that they showed. Um, and yeah, I didn't really have a problem with it. I just think there's just a certain point of these movies where I'm just waiting for something really cool to happen, and so sometimes when I go a long time and something really cool hasn't happened, I'm like, okay, come on, let's get there. Like I don't know if I could really point to like specifically why I felt this way. It's just one of my biggest complaints with this movie was there just were times where I was like, all right, come on, let's go,
Yeah.
come on, like let's like we're sitting in here for a while, let's get to it.
I had one, and I'm wondering if it's the same. There was one distinct moment, and I think for me, it was the only time where I felt this, where I was like, okay, I've seen enough of this scene. Let's move on. And for me, it was the Osaka hotel, where
Agreed. Yeah.
like it's John Wick fighting in the glass room before Donnie Yen shows up. It's maybe 10
Oh yes,
minutes
yeah.
of the same looking guards, and it was like, okay, okay, yeah, I got it. You know,
I also felt that it was later, it was in a non-action, it was a set of scenes that were all non-action, which is fine. Like obviously this movie doesn't have to be action wall to wall, but it was just like they were just all kind of like they felt slow to me, and I don't know. I don't remember specifically well enough. It was just, I guess I wanted to pose the question to you guys, like ideally is this movie 20 minutes shorter or something for you guys, or did you guys feel it fine?
I thought the Osaka scene can be massively cut down. I agree with you guys. I think when it's the same, like I like it when they do something creative with the action, but when it's the same thing repeating, it's just not fun, you know.
it's escalation that you need. You know,
Well, or just changing things up, right? Like for example, fuck, what's the French roundabout
Arc de
thing?
Triomphe.
Like for example, like
Well, I guess
yo,
the
that's
road isn't
fuck-
called that, but
yeah, like that's so cool, you know, like
roundabout.
you know, like I've never seen that before in the franchise. It's the first time seeing it. I like to see more, but
There aren't a lot of
Osaka is like
roundabouts in New York. Also, not a lot of uh,
dangerous drivers.
noticeably absent Arc de Triomphes in New York.
yeah.
Actually, no, that's so wrong. There's one in Washington Square Park. There is an Arc de Triomphe there, or like
Oh,
the
really?
same exact structure. Yeah,
No way.
they never go there in John Wick, but that's actually I'm a huge liar. There is one.
Nice.
My bad. Sorry, Peter. You were saying something.
No, that's my take.
Okay.
Just like Osaka can be cut down.
Yeah, I honestly like. Other than that one moment, I was pretty content with the whole thing.
Okay.
I know some people are like, movies these days are too long, but like it's a
No, I
case
don't
by
agree
case
with that at all.
basis, and
Yeah.
yeah, and I was like, no, this largely worked for me. Maybe 5 minutes difference, like that's kind of
Sure.
where I'm at, not
Right.
20. Like I think I was pretty on board the whole time.
Dude.
Yeah,
No, I'm just gonna say I would happily watch the 3 hour cut of Doom for people who are saying
Okay.
the movies are too long.
No, I'm gonna go
No,
to the
I-
9 hour cut of Avatar too.
Yeah.
So,
No, I love long movies, and I agree. I hate the attitude of one, because it's not even accurate. That like movies did get longer in that they used to be 90 minutes, and now the standard is that they're like 120 generally.
Yeah.
But it's like I don't think movies are actually getting longer. I think there's just a few that are long, and yeah, I think it's silly.
And honestly, like if we look at old movies, Lawrence of Arabia, I'm pretty sure it's what 3
It's just
hours, over
It's
3
over 3
hours.
I
hours.
think it's
like 4.
hours. Yeah.
Exactly. Like
There's
if
an
anything,
intermission in it.
They do have an intermission, which I think we should bring back because, like, if
Yeah,
you're
that's
exceeding,
sick.
yeah,
I would legitimately like love to go to the movie theater and have an intermission.
It's like a
That'd be
half
so
day
fun.
event, you know?
Yeah.
it's just like you do that in
Let's go to a
theater.
play. Yeah.
That's common practice, and I don't see a problem with doing that. Like, if you actually just leave a blank screen on in your export, for 5-10 minutes. Let
Yeah.
people go to the washroom. I don't have a problem with that because
Yeah.
I have mastery over my own body. But like,
Oh, nice.
yeah, like I've just mastered not having to go to the bathroom. I'm so good at it. No, more like, yeah. I feel like it allows you to get longer movies essentially, right? Like I don't
Yeah.
know if I could watch Lawrence of Arabia in theaters without.
One sitting, yeah.
Yeah, that might be tough. So
Well,
I
how
think
long is
three
the end game?
recommendations. That was 3 hours.
Mm.
It's actually
Watch that in one sitting.
Avengers. No, there's tons of 3 hour movies in the past month, more like 4 months. But
I would even say Avatar. Like Avatar felt
Yeah.
fine for the runtime. Avatar did not feel long to me at all when I watched
Avatar
it.
and Babylon were two that we watched in theaters.
Oh yeah, neither of those
Um,
felt long to me.
Yeah,
I mean, I knew they were
Avengers.
long watching, but
Yeah, Avengers is 3 hours, but shorter than Avatar. Anyways, do we want to rank action moments or the films first? How do we
I
go?
couldn't. I again don't remember enough about the films to rank the films. Like I could go off the dome. Like the only thing I remember in the first one, I really loved it, and then they clearly ran out of budget for the last action scene,
Yeah.
and I since have figured out. I've heard like yeah they did. That is what happened. They ran out of budget.
Oh, they actually did.
Yeah, they ran out of money. That's why he just fights an old man in the rain at the end of the
Yeah.
first one, because they did have the money for anything else. But yeah.
I mean, we
Okay,
can rank the films quickly and then go.
Yeah,
into
while we're
action.
on that,
Yeah.
Peter, let's hear from you because you.
I want to hear from you first, actually.
Okay, we'll hear from me first.
Yeah.
This was easily my favorite. I think, yeah, like I said, it levels up from everything preceding. I didn't care for one. Rewatching it, I realized like how much of like kind of like I don't know if a B action flick is, that might be not giving it enough credit. I do think technically it's strong, but the second act onwards, or like the second half, really really drags, and they haven't figured out how to keep the kind of like story going yet, keep it fresh, right? Where I don't really have that problem in future installments. So that I think one might be my least favorite, and then I'm going like on like really strange order. So I have 4 at the best, 1 at the worst, and then I think two is easily my second favorite. And then 3,
and that leaves
because
one spot for 3.
Actually, not
3
bad.
is
Not bad.
third.
I think I mostly agree with you. So 2 is my favorite, then is 4, and then 1 and 3, they both do something really well. So, last spots for 1 and 3. But 2 is my absolute favorite, though.
2 is quite strong.
Yeah.
And that leads us into our top action moments. So basically, I've asked the boys to kind of consider some of their favorite moments in the John Wick franchise, and we've picked our top 3s. So we'll take turns. What we'll do is each of us will give our third, and then we'll go to our second. We'll list some honorable mentions before going into.
Mine are not in an order.
First. You can very quickly, just pick one at a time. Doesn't. Yeah. So let's hear from Aidan first because he just spoke.
Yeah, so mine are in no particular order, so I'll just go with the first one I have listed, which is the home invasion from the first one. And I think like that's like one of the first moments where you realize like, oh shit. And that's what this movie is going to be. And it's just like it's like a fairly simple setup, but it's just such a well choreographed, like well shot in that like the camera placement like is really, really engaging. Just like really well done fight scene, and it's just the moment where you're like, what am I watching? It's like I feel like that's the scene where people like that movie started to take off, you know what I mean? Like that's what people came there for. So yeah, that's a great one, and it's like one of the first action scenes of I think just the fact that it's one of the first ones and that it had that kind of impact that it did, I think that's why it's up there for me.
I think it is the first action scene of the film, and it really does kick off the movie and I mean the rest of the franchise.
Well, I mean,
there's some really good shots in there. Yeah,
the first action scene technically is his like them going to his home and beating up John Wick and
dog.
killing his dog.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's not what I'm counting. Like
Yeah,
where
I
John
know,
Wick
I know,
is doing his thing, you know.
Yeah. The Baba
But
Yaga.
Peter guy, Family Guy, what's your third favorite?
third favorite for me is chapter 3, the glass scene. So it's the final fight scene in chapter 3. So John is sort of in this like little mini museum in the New York Continental, and he's fighting a bunch of goons. And these goons are so goofy. They're like, "Mr. Wick, it's been a pleasure." And then
Oh,
every time John falls down, they're like, "Yo, get up, let's keep going." And then eventually John's like considering killing them. It's like, nah, actually, these guys are fine. I'll just leave. And then he had another sick scene with Zero, at sort of like the top level where Winston was at with the chessboard. And then I feel like it's just so funny. Like the third one is such a goofy movie. Basically, all the villains and the henchmen were just like, "I'm such a big fan of you, Mr. Wick. It's been an honor, Mr. Wick." and the guy, when the Zero eventually got defeated, he was like, "Yeah, I'll be up in a sec." Then John's like, "No, you won't," and then walks away.
that was pretty sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was saying before we started, I think that this part of the charm of that scene is that we know those actors, the ones, the students is what they're called in the movie, the students of Zero, because they're the actors from the Raid movies from Indonesia. So I think the idea is like you can't kill them because you're gonna like alienate some of those fans who love those movies, and they're like action celebrities, they're like action stars.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, it's a very cool moment. I haven't seen those movies, but like even just like knowing that that's why they're famous, I was like, oh yeah, this is really fun because it's kind of like meta. You have to know another work isn't that literally meta textual? Like you have to know another work to enjoy the scene like to a different level. So I think that is a really cool moment. Just a side point on the Continental. I find it funny that across the 3 movies, like you just keep introducing different rooms in the building, and I'm like, this is a different location. You've like moved across the city to find a new location, and you're saying it's part of the same building, and it's that glass room that's like really pushing. I'm like,
where is that?
That's not the same building. Do not believe you. But I mean, after they had to top themselves.
I don't care.
Yeah. We'll get into why they did that sequence later in this list, but I think my number 3. Yeah, I'm gonna do okay for my number 3. I have to go with from John Wick 1, car plus gun. So it's the scene at the docks where it's towards the end of the film. It's the second last action bit, and it's just John Wick in his car with a gun, and he's like doing the sickest moves, both like hitting people with cars and like shooting at the same time. Oh man, that's everything I wanted.
That scene is so smooth, and there's one shot in particular where like he swerves the car and it comes right up to the camera that I'm thinking of, that like, and it's like it goes like through the driver's door. I can't describe it well enough, but it's just like an iconic shot. Like it's used, like when people use clips from John Wick, it's one of the clips they use.
Yeah. Man, I think also like it just kind of saves what is otherwise kind of like a boring ending to the film. Like I didn't, like I said, I didn't care for that second half of John Wick, but I was like, oh, like here's a really good scene towards the end to kind of save it. Aidan, what is your second favorite from the franchise?
Again, I will reaffirm these are in no order. So not my second favorite, but I will move on to Knife Museum. I don't know which one this is from. You guys have told me already, but I forget. This is from the third one. I think this scene is not only sick as fuck, but also hilarious. Like this is an example of a scene that like where they're really leaning into the comedy, like the absurdity of them. They're in a knife. They find themselves in a knife museum and are just like constantly picking up knives and throwing them. It has some of the best kills of the entire franchise. I think. Like no, it's just, and like I love how like one of the things that's great about this franchise in general is that John Wick is never like afraid to just waste bullets and stuff. Like he'll shoot people like 7 times, and I love that it's the same concept with knives.
With knives.
Like, he'll throw like 8 knives into somebody. Yeah, no, it's a great scene.
It is, yeah. If you hadn't taken it, it would have ended up on my list. It is quite a hilarious scene. Just like that moment where they've been shooting at each other, and you kind of notice that where they are, but then when they notice and they stop they're out of bullets, they stop, they look behind them and like do a double take, and then they go smash, smash, knife, 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 knife. And it's just like chaos. Directed by Elizabeth Banks.
Yeah. Hey.
Peter, what is your second favorite action moment?
Okay, second comes from chapter 4. It's the oh my god, I forgot the roundabout's name again.
Jesus Christ, Peter! It's the Arc de Triomphe.
Okay,
when will you learn?
I just thought that scene is just so creative on so many different levels. The way they use the environment in a unique way, and like it's such an iconic location in movies as well. The fact that they come up with something unique that's fitting for the John Wick universe and also unique for the action film genre is just so impressive. And also it's just really cool scene.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yep.
For my number 2, I'm going to, funny enough, John Wick 2, and I'm choosing the ending sequence in the Reflections of the Soul art exhibit, the mirror house of mirrors kind of thing. Man, what a great space to have a final shootout. Like it's very like softly trying to approach themes and being like, whoa, reflections, like what means something greater, but like I don't give a fuck. It's just like it's really cool to film in there, and like there's all like the doors that go like boom and the spinny things where he's hiding, but like how do you hide in a house of mirrors? And yeah, it's just like it's a really cool filming location. I heard that like for John Wick 2 they had a much larger budget from the first one.
Yeah.
And that's where they spent all of the money. Giant mirror set piece, and like I applaud them for it. It's genius. It's so good. Peter?
Dude, and also like there's one little sequence in there where John breaks one of the mirrors and leaps out from the mirror to kill one of the henchmen. Badass. That was just so sick. Yeah.
There's one shot when he's leaving where I think it's so confusing to me because like
he had to leave the way he comes in, I think.
Yeah. So he's going through these sliding doors, but like he'll approach and the door will open and then he's farther away because it's mirrors and it's reflections. And like so it happens twice. I'm like, whoa, I'm so lost. Right. And then Ruby Rose appears on the other side and then like I was gonna say, like, I'm pretty sure this is why the third movie ends the way it does. It's like they're trying to recreate that, right? So like we had the House of Mirrors, here's the House of like reflective glass.
Yeah. Windows. And then we go into 4 and they fight in the glass room. Yeah.
Oh, they do. Yeah, it's similar, but thankfully not to the same extent. They're doing things again. Okay, we're not going to mention what happened because we want that sponsorship. What were we? Oh, we're okay.
Honorable mentions. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I have 2.
Okay. All right. So before we get into our top picks for best action moments of the John Wick franchise, we're going to go to our honorable mentions. So I have a list of a few. So I'll go one by one, and if you guys have some, you can mention them. So number 1. Honorable mention, not ranked, not order. I don't know why I said number 1. I have custom guns. So this is from John Wick 3, where it's just before the knife museum scene. He is, how do I describe this? It's like a case of like antique guns, and he smashes the case, and he like is taking them apart for some reason, and is like making a Frankenstein pistol. And it's never explained why. Like maybe he's looking for ones with like working parts, but like
Mm.
we don't know. And it
Yeah.
seems like this really intricate thing, and he's like making this custom gun. It's so cool. And then you hear people coming. He loads it just in time, shoots one guy, leaves the gun, doesn't use it again. And it's like it's another moment of comedy where it's like all this setup for like really weak payoff
Yeah.
is the payoff. So I like
Yeah.
that moment a lot.
That's
Peter,
funny.
do you have an honorable mention?
Are we doing one at a time, or
Yeah,
are
like
we doing
I think
all of
it's
them together?
Let's hop in.
I'm kind of switching between us because I don't think it's fun if I list three and then you do.
True.
You know.
Okay, this is a really small scene. So when him and Common are having their chase in two,
Mhm.
there's one where they spot each other in New York, and there was a fountain separating them, and the fountain
yes.
sort of like the water level rises and falls, and then one moment you can see them, one moment you can't, and they were just sort of trading shots. So and I'm like, first of all, guys, like there are civilians around. You're probably like even though it's not showing it, I'm pretty sure these missing shots probably hit somebody.
Yeah.
But and like second is a very very cool scene where like one moment you can see them, one moment you can't, and like sort of them positioning differently because of that, and also it's a very tense moment, so it's cool.
Aidan, do you have any honorable mentions?
I honestly think the ones I would mention I think are coming up. I think either
Okay.
you guys are mentioning them in yours or yeah.
Okay, fair enough. An honorable mention for me is Stairs. So I'm not sure which one I referred to, but I don't think either of them make it to the top. So I'll mention both. But any scene where John Wick is falling downstairs is so funny to me. So there's the one, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, where Common and John Wick are falling downstairs and making each other fall down. So like they're propelling each other is really funny.
Yeah.
And then the one in this movie where he falls down 200 steps.
Yeah.
All 200 is very funny. Peter, do you have one?
Yeah, so my last one is the first time where they do this sort of most wanted thing with John Wick. And it's one of the reasons why I think Chapter 2 is just such a great movie. It's just like, because they reuse this idea in 3 and 4, where John Wick is a wanted man because he has a bounty on him, and the entire New York City is like sort of chasing after him. And we just sort of see him taking out people with really creative weaponries, and it's the first time where like the pencil is getting used to take people down. And I just thought like that's just really fresh, and also they switch around the different sort of fighting scenes really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So like one time is like fighting this guitar woman in the subway, and then it's like two dudes, two tech bros with a pencil, and then this gigantic sumo wrestler looking guy on the street. It's a very fun scene.
Yeah, I like that scene too. I called it the People of New York versus John Wick. Like it's a court case or something. Also, actually, speaking of the pencil thing, though, it is funny that Donnie Yen uses a pencil for a brief moment in this movie.
He did, yes.
That was a callback, and
yeah,
I think it's interesting that they don't mention that. Like, I don't know if that would have been like, I don't know, too on the nose. Like if you're like, pointing it out, but it is cool that he does that. Yeah. Last honorable mention I have is John Wick falling off the Continental when he hits everything on the way down. not necessarily an action moment, but it's a stunt moment for sure.
Dude, so I swear something similar was in Deadpool, no?
Maybe.
Perchance.
That is a perchance. I love the word perchance. Let's get into our top picks. So Aidan, what is your last pick for best action moments?
Again, in no particular order. But yeah, the last one I've listed is the Berlin Club from John Wick 4. I've already talked about it a little bit, but the way this scene progresses from inside the club to outside in the crowd, how you're a bunch of different weapons being used. You got the cards, you got the hatchets, you got just fists, dude. When he falls down, it's beautiful. You got all the water and stuff. Love water. Um, again, like it's also just nice. Like one of the things that makes John Wick really satisfying is that John Wick takes hits and like takes serious hits. So like he is shoved off a balcony in this scene, and then like the person he's fighting is established as a formidable foe that John Wick is able to overcome, and that's what makes these scenes really satisfying. Is that he is a nonstop killing machine, but he takes hits and then gets back up and gets people back, and this is a good example of that. Really good one.
Mm-hmm. Really great scene. I like the face Scott Adkins makes when he's dead. He's like, ooh,
Yeah,
like ooh, face. Peter, what is your top action moment?
My absolute favorite from the entire franchise got to be the catacomb scene in 2. Now, one of the big reasons I like 2 is because we really see sort of like what John was doing, like when he was a professional hitman, how he would plan things, get his things ready, and arrange sort of really like plan everything out, have weapons stashed away, just in case something happens, and which is showcased flawlessly in that sequence, where I think John Wick is at his peak when he plays around more than just his pistol. So in that scene, we have a pistol, assault rifle, shotgun, bare fist, just a mix of bunch of different weaponry that John uses. And also like the transition from like a party crowd to like a catacomb where there's so many directions, lighting is dark, fighting from the Gianna's bodyguards to Ruby Rose's character and her guards as well. Just sort of like that entire transition is just really smooth and very sick. And like I said, different weaponry he uses as well. Just like a very nice put together scene, in my opinion. And my personal opinion, highlight of the series, best.
I rewatching 2, I was like, oh yeah, this scene fucks. Like it's awesome. Yeah. I like how it's set up earlier where he's kind of preparing for the moment in kind of like the most this series gets to emulating the James Bond franchise. I think like he's wearing suits now and he's super prepared, which is again like what you said, not something we're used to seeing for the John Wick. But where he's talking with the armorer or the guy with the weapons at the Continental, and he's like here, and they're like referring to the weapons as if it's like meals. So like here's for dessert,
and for
here's
dessert,
the entree. And I just love that he uses those weapons in that order. Like it's just so satisfying to be like, oh right, this is okay, this and then this.
It's dessert time.
For dessert, like he pulls out the knife. It's like, we haven't seen the knife. Oh, there it is. There's a knife. No, I think that scene is really great. My top action moment pick has to be Common versus John Wick in public, where they're just walking in like a really crowded area and just casually shooting each other with silencers. It was so ridiculous and funny.
I love that scene so much.
It's so funny.
That definitely would have been in my top 3 if you didn't take it. I love that scene.
I think that's everyone loves that scene.
It also ends in a very nice way. It's like the knife is in your aorta. If you pull it out, you'll die. So just keep it in there so you can live. Think of it as a professional courtesy, and John walks off. Oh my god!
I wasn't even including that, but that it does lead to other great moments as well. Man, just like the fact that nobody notices that they're shooting each other.
Dude, and I don't know if you included this as part of your top, but like when they were fighting in the subway, and like that's where eventually the fight ended. Like there were just guys in the background just like sitting there, and as soon as the door opened, they ran out. That was just hilarious as well.
that is an honorable mention for sure. I think that's enough about this movie that we saw. Aidan, we have a segment.
Yeah, so the podcast is called Predator versus Movies. We have done the movie part, and now it's time to get into the Predator. We ask the most important question, the question everyone wants to know the answer to when they kick their feet up at the end of a long working day. Would this movie be better if the Predator from the movie Predator were in it? And I would say no.
Probably not. Yeah.
John Wick versus the Predator.
I think,
It's
I
like
think
the
showdown.
the only question we have to answer is
Who'd win?
who would win, John Wick
Yeah.
versus the Predator.
That's a good
Mm.
question.
I think John Wick. I think he's.
I think John Wick too.
unstoppable.
I was gonna say we've seen the Predator be stopped. You know,
Yeah,
that's
it's
happened
kind
on
of-
film.
It's kind of his thing.
Yeah.
And John Wick's thing is being like a one-man army. So like, I don't think he stands a chance. Honestly.
Yeah. I'm with you.
But where would he show up in this movie? I don't know. He
He's
would
a member
probably
of the
be.
table, the
He
high
would.
table.
Oh, I like that actually. He would probably be the one above the table, but
Mm.
alas, it was the other guy. I was saying that
Above the table, they literally mean above, as
Above.
in aliens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
I was
God.
gonna say he's probably like just like a French guy at a cafe waiting for the radio announcer to be like, "Oh yeah, go kill John Wick." So
That'd be
he'd
funny.
just like he would just appear at the Arc de Triomphe or something.
That would also be funny because then he'd be canonically French, which is accurate because they're monsters.
The French.
Just kidding.
What?
Just kidding.
That's so
Just
funny.
kidding. Oh, désolé. Oh.
Je suis just joking. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I speak French. I'm
Yeah.
literally taking a French course and I don't know how to say that. Peter, we have a segment.
We do
Another
have a
one.
segment.
Yeah.
It's called Predator's Picks. What have you guys watched this past week? I personally have not seen anything other than John Wick.
It does seem to
Alright.
be.
Yeah.
It's noticeably empty. Aidan.
Yeah. I watched a couple things. So I'll start off with the thing I'm less excited about, which is Under the Dome, which if
Yeah,
you're
what's
not
that?
familiar with what that is, it is a TV show that came out years ago based on a novel by Stephen King about a town that is suddenly enclosed by a dome that seemingly comes out of nowhere. So I watched the first episode of that. Only reason I'm doing this is because I'm developing a show for a screenwriting class, and I have a show that has a somewhat similar premise, just in that it's a town people can't leave. And so my prof recommended I watch this show just to pick out what do I like, what do I not like. And it seems okay. It seems like an okay show from the pilot. Like, it seems like they have places to grow into that are really interesting. They make a big point about like getting into it and like telling you like what kind of characters these are. It does seem like they're really playing into the angle of the dome comes down and that reveals all the things that have been rumbling in like the underbelly of the town, the things that people don't want to acknowledge and stuff. That sounds interesting. They also put a lot of emphasis into like how can the town exist if the dome is there and no one can get in and out. So yeah, I don't know. Like I'm not that interested in watching that much of it, but I probably will watch it a little bit more just for the sake of like, studying more. What are you gonna say, Peter?
Aidan, I have another recommendation for you. If you want to watch shows where people can't leave the town, it's called WandaVision.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And
I
I
did
know
watch that
you've
one,
seen
yeah.
it, so it's like, yeah.
Good one.
Nice one. Okay, but then the movie I'm a lot more excited about. For my other Predator's pick, in preparation for potentially watching Creed 3 for the podcast, I watched the first Creed movie. And Alex had told me it's good before this. And I'd gone into it being like, yeah, sure, like you'll be fine, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it's fucking sick. I was like, how did this just go like completely under my radar? It's so good. Like it's a very, very good movie, and it's incredible. Like all of the boxing scenes are like so well done. I'm usually not a fan of like the freehand all the time thing, but I realized that like this movie does it well because the shots are designed so well. There's a point to every single shot. Like it's not just like we're gonna have this floating camera thing and it's gonna be raw and real. Like this movie is definitely going for that grounded aesthetic, but it's designed in such a way that it actually works really well. I think that like Michael B. Jordan and Tessa Thompson are like so good in this movie. They're actually incredible in this movie. Michael B. Jordan, like it's so easy to just make this like a I gotta fight but Michael B. Jordan like is like a little boy in this movie. Like he feels like a little boy that like has to do this thing. And there's that line where Rocky's like, you need to get out of his shadow. And it's like this idea of his arc. He needs to like accept his legacy but reframe it in such a way like he like his the change that he has to undergo is so interesting. It's so good that he doesn't win the fight, but that I mean I'm spoiling it.
Yeah.
Whoops. But it's so good. There's particularly the moment where Michael B. Jordan goes and he goes and he accepts like the best boxer in the world has challenged him and he decides like okay I'm gonna do it, and he's in like the kitchen and he's talking to Rocky and he just yells like I'm gonna fight the guy, and he's like hyped for a second and you just see his face kind of drop and he's alone, but the music is still like triumphant, and it's just like it's this moment of like yes there is some triumph to this, but he's also really struggling with these things. It's just I was like shocked by how much was going on in this movie, and I like by the end of it, I was like, "This is incredible." So, very excited going to Creed 2. Heard it's not as good, but whatever.
Yeah. No, that was like probably one of the best films I've seen in a hot minute.
Yeah,
It's like I cried. Like I'll be honest.
I
Like,
was
it
very
was,
close. Like I was like, "Holy shit!" Yeah.
when he was like, "I have to prove that I wasn't a mistake." I was like, "Damn."
Oh yeah. Oh dude,
Yeah.
and the moment when he falls on the ground and it's pushing into
Yes.
him and it's cutting to all the different things, and then it cuts to Adonis Creed and he's just like, or not Adonis Creed, Apollo Creed, and he's like,
No.
and he comes up. Oh, the shot is so good. It's oh man, it's actually such a good movie.
It's
Yeah.
proof for those like you haven't seen Fruitville Station, have you?
No.
So that's probably like the first Ryan Coogler movie you've seen that wasn't Black Panther, right?
Yeah.
So it's like proof that like yeah, this guy knows what he's doing.
No, like, and I finished that and it's like I gotta do a Coogler deep dive. Like I gotta.
Yeah.
Is it just what does he have other than Creed and Fruitvale Station other than Black Panther?
I don't know if there's anything else. Like maybe he did some TV, but I think he's been really caught up in those Black Panther movies. Like that takes your time.
Yeah.
While you're looking that up, I'll start getting into my stuff. Did either of you guys end up finishing The Last of Us?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can all talk about it then.
Yeah.
So I have finally caught up and I've seen the finale. And yeah, like I mean, this wasn't a show that I was particularly crazy about, but it was yeah, it was pretty good. It's pretty good television. And I don't know what the general consensus on the finale was, but I actually like really enjoyed it, and I thought it was kind of like the way it challenges the audience. I thought was really refreshing compared to some of the other episodes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that turn, that spoilers, the turn that Joel takes, where he just like kills all the fireflies. I was like, okay, yeah I dig this direction. Like this is really cool.
Yeah.
What is
also-
your favorite episode? Sorry. I'll
Aidan,
let you
I'll
guys
me.
talk about this point first.
I was gonna say regarding that, like I like how it's like it's established that he's doing this out of like a selfishness. Like his arc is like it's really because like he obviously cares for Ellie, but like it's really that this hole that was once in him is filled and he cannot personally bear for it to not be there anymore. And so like it's not even about like considering like what Ellie would want, which I think is pretty clearly Ellie would want to die for this. I think that's established that like she would do that. And so it's like he's not doing it for her, he's doing it for him. And I think that's a really well set up part of it.
No, absolutely agree. And I think what's so cool about it is like it's not something that the audience think is right. Like we all can see like this is probably the wrong decision, but then to the character it is the right decision. And like seeing the contrast is very cool.
It was also funny watching it with my parents because they were both like, "Yeah, go, Joel." I was like, "What
the fuck?" Peter, you did ask what was my favorite episode, and I think that we could all answer this. Sorry for making my clicker sounds.
Nice.
I don't know.
Remind myself.
If you guys have a solid answer, I'm still trying to figure it out for myself.
I have
like look at the episodes really quick.
I have like a top 2.
I liked I think I liked the flashback one, the long time one that was kind of like the random Bill and Frank backstory.
Yeah,
That
that's
was a
really
fun
good.
one. I liked maybe the second part of the Kansas City stuff. That one was kind of
Yeah.
fun.
Oh yeah.
But
I like the episode a lot where the what are their names, Henry and Sam,
Henry and
where
Sam.
Henry,
Yeah.
Henry and Sam
Yo,
die. That's a good
Henry
episode.
forced to
Yeah,
kill Sam. That
yeah.
was so devastating.
yeah,
My
that was a
God.
really great moment.
Yeah.
I like the pilot. I think the opening episode is great. I think some of
Yeah.
my favorite, some of my standout moments from this series is actually the where it deviates from the game. So like, I remember when I saw the very first scene of the show. My favorite part of the show actually, or one of my favorite parts, was just like the
How grounded.
things that were at the beginning that
The
were
cold
like
opens.
not the cold opens. Yeah, thank you. That were not part of the game at all, and were just like the scientist talking about fungus on TV. I was like, that's awesome.
So
And then
true.
this
Yeah.
the second one where it's the woman who's like,
I
she's
love
like,
that one.
burn
Yeah.
burn the whole city, like we have to destroy the city. Like, that's great. I actually wish they had more of stuff like that in the show.
Same.
But yeah, I think those are my favorite moments. I don't know my favorite episode.
Peter?
I'm surprised none of you guys mentioned the episode 8, the penultimate.
That's because
That was a
I
good one.
didn't like it that much.
Really? I thought it was a fantastic episode. Like the intensity is there, and then sort of like we know Ellie is not as nice as she seems on the surface. Like, she is a girl with trauma, and like seeing that like come out and like manifest in a way that's, you know, violence, aggression, and eventually, you know, culminating into Ellie saving herself. Like, Joe's never coming, and Joe, like Aidan, you and I talked about it, sort of like saving her emotionally, not like physically. You know,
Yeah.
that's just like I was on the verge of tears when they hugged at the end. You know, it was a very emotional episode for me.
I think there's definitely good moments in there. Okay, well, if that's all our thoughts about The Last of Us, I have another TV show that I'm going to anti-rec for the first time ever. The Mandalorian. I have stopped watching.
Oh,
That's a show I was watching with my dad, and we got to, I think, episode 3, and we were about halfway through, and we were like, this sucks. I don't like this. This is homework. I feel like I'm being forced to watch this. So we've given up on it. I don't know if I'm gonna come back. Like, if there's like if people say like one episode is really good, I might jump to it, but
right.
This season has been a huge letdown, and it feels a lot like how Obi-Wan was feeling and Boba Fett, where I'm just like, I don't like this. This is not fun for me. So I cannot wreck The Mandalorian any longer. That's a very sad moment, but here we are.
Yeah, I haven't started season 3 at all, and I probably won't based off what I've heard.
Yeah. Peter, did you see any of it? I think you did.
I saw the first 2 episodes. I heard like it gets better though. So I'm actually not sure if I'm gonna like full stop, but like the first 2 episodes were pretty bad.
Yeah.
Very slow. And like not slow in a good way. Like we say Denise films are slow, but like they're slow for a purpose. But like they're just slow for no reason. Nothing happens.
Episode
slow with no narrative drive.
Yeah, exactly.
Episode 1 was such a nothing. Episode 2, where it was
exactly
like, what was going on? Like, there was no central conflict. Like,
I really felt like I felt like Grogu shouldn't be a part of the show anymore. Like, I felt like they really squeezed a lot out of the character, and I don't want to see like going off with Luke is just such a great send off for him. You know, like sort of like he's
and then they can
his story. And then Din Djarin can do his own thing, right? So,
and then they could also just check in on him. Like, he doesn't have to be permanently gone. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But
like what they should have done is like a season where Mando's on his own, and he goes to a darker place because he's without the kid, and he's like, you know, I don't know what the word is, but like he's missing the kid, I guess.
Yeah.
And like so he goes to a darker place, and you know, then maybe episode 3 or 4, you do like a Grogu-centric episode where it's just Grogu, and then they reconnect at the end, and then a final 4th season where it's like they're back together again and better than ever, and you know,
and then you end that season where like Grogu could be used to synthesize like a vaccine, but like he would kill him, and so then Mando chooses to kill everyone who's trying to make the vaccine.
Hey, guess who the actor from Mando is?
You say that as a
Pedro
joke.
Pascal.
You say that as a joke, but like the first 2 seasons were clearly about like we're gonna harvest the Force energy from this little guy.
That's true.
Yeah, true. That is
That's
true.
exactly what's gonna happen. And I still think they will. I still think that's gonna happen because Episode 3 was a character was like the scientist character.
Yeah,
from
Dr.
the first
Person,
season.
right?
They brought him back.
Is that Werner Herzog?
No, Dr.
His
Hershey. It's
glasses
the glasses
guy?
dude. Yeah.
The scientist who was like harvesting Grogu or whatever.
Am I crazy that Werner Herzog is in these
is.
movies?
He says, "I would like to see the baby.
Yeah.
I would like to see the baby." Yeah. So those the 2 things, and then I saw some movies. I watched
some Predator movies.
I watched a movie I've been wanting to see for a while, Official Competition from 2021. It stars Antonio Banderas and Penelope Cruz and another guy. It's it's a very arty film. It reminds me a lot of Triangle of Sadness. It's like European, it's like a European satire. So
okay, I might actually like it then, because I have it on my list, but not that high up.
Okay, it's European satire. They have a very, very distinct style. So this is a Spanish one, and so like it's Penelope Cruz is a director, and she's been tasked by like a super rich guy to make the best movie ever for him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like a satire about like how movies are made and actors and like egos. And so she's like possibly the worst director of all time. Like she's like some of the things she's doing in the movie, I'm like, I've been trained not to do those things.
Oh yeah, it's especially relatable for you, I guess.
Yeah, so like that kind of tainted it for me, knowing the ins and outs of like directing and being like, no, that's not what you're supposed to be. Like there's a term for what you're doing and that's wrong. And then I really liked the actor characters, because it's like the idea is Antonio Banderas is like the movie star kind of actor, so more like The Rock or I don't know, like Chris Evans, right? And then the other actor is like a theater actor, and he's more about like the craft of it all, and like I have to, get into the character, and seeing them like clash those 2 different types of acting, I found pretty funny. So yeah, so that was a good time. Like Aidan left for the entire review and then just gets the tail end. And then I watched one other movie, and it's a movie from Uganda. It's the first action film.
Oh my god, did you actually watch?
Yeah, Sasha, a frequent guest on the show, friend of the pod, recommended this to me. I'd never heard of it, and he was like, I've been wanting to see this for like years, so he made me watch it. Thank goodness, because like it's the funniest movie I've seen in so long. It's so random. It's so basically
wait, okay, before we go into it, where did you find this movie?
So it was playing at the Cinematheque.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a cult classic film, apparently. It's from 2010. And it's like the lowest of the low budget kind of movies. It was made by this one guy who wrote, produced, edited, directed, filmed the whole thing. And it's kind of like a procedural movie. Like the plot like doesn't matter. But essentially it's like a task force are trying to fight a mafia called the Tiger Mafia. And it's fun to watch in the way like The Room is fun to watch.
Yeah.
Because they're so earnest about it, and like it's an honest to goodness like action film. Like at some point like not a monk, but like a martial artist shows up like halfway through the film. He's like the brother of a character. I'm like, who's this? And like they just keep adding characters, and it's a mess. It's a mess of a movie. But what really tops it all off is the whole thing has been like not dubbed over, but like there's a track of like an MC, like a DJ, commenting on the film's events the entire time. and like it took me forever to realize what the point of that was and why. But like he's just he's like super action and he keeps breaking the fourth wall and being like, who killed Captain Alex? Like that's the name of the movie. Who killed Captain Alex? Best action film, first action film from Uganda. And it's like, dude, we're watching this movie. We know what we're watching. And he's like, go watch the next movie, something black. I forget what it's called, but like he's promoting the next movie during the movie. He keeps saying, Commando, Commando, and just like funny quips. There's some there's a moment where they're like walking in slow motion, and like the bad guys, and he's like, they walk slow because they think slow. And it's all been subtitled, and some of that is funny in itself. So there's a part where he's like something sad has happened and he's fake crying. So he's going like and they're spelling it out. Like there's one line that's like comma e. And then the subtitle changes and he goes like question, like crying question mark. I had a great time. It's so funny.
Dude,
and
you gave it a 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd.
Because I had a great time. It's all you would want from that kind of movie. And they do like After Effects. Like I don't know if it was After Effects. It was like VFX, and it's like pretty bad, like pretty shoddy work. But like it's so funny.
Yeah,
like dudes in helicopters and shit. It's so fun. I think it's on Tubi actually, so you can watch it. But I don't know if you're just gonna pirate it. You awful person. I'm just kidding. But that's it for my Predators picks. I think this has actually turned into a really long episode.
Yeah.
Next week we're gonna do Creed 3. I think we said we were gonna do it. Creed.
Oh no, I think I've forgotten what happened in Creed 3.
You might have to watch it again. Anyways,
no.
If you like us, check us out at Predator Review Movies on Twitter and Instagram. If you like my thoughts on movies, check me out at Letterboxd at ___. How about you, Aidan?
You can also check me out on Letterboxd. That's 810 Sunny. That's 810 SONNY. My name is Wombo.
Oh, that's it?
That's
usually
it.
You say something. Usually you say I leave reviews or like.
Okay, I leave reviews.
You didn't finish it. I was like, yeah. Okay, and
yeah.
Peter, do you have anything to plug?
No. But
you know what that means. You know what that means. Peter had nothing to plug, which means you guys are contractually obligated to leave a review. You have to leave a review because Peter didn't plug anything. If Peter had plugged something, you would not have to. It would be of your own volition. But Peter did not plug anything, so you have to leave a review.
And leave a star rating. Also, should we give a question for our people? We forgot to.
Favorite Wick.
Yeah. Maybe I'll make it a poll. If I can do an option of 4, we'll do a poll on Spotify because I don't know how to do it on any other app or if they even offer it. But we'll do a poll, or you can leave a comment. What is your favorite wick? Candle wick. Can't think of a second.
John.
Your 2 options. But yeah. Until next time, I'm Alex. What?
Warwick Davis.
Oh, War Davis. That's your favorite wick. But yeah, until next time, I'm Alex.
I'm Peter.
I'm Aidan.
And this was Predator versus Movies. Pew, 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 pew. Yeah, I think that was the podcast.